Hey gang, and today I come to you with some sad news. Last we spoke, I took on a mega project challenge to build a fortress for my dwarves deep under the ocean, and this is the story of how we didn't even get that far. So this is the embarkment, this is our island, and so this footage is going to skip forward like twice and show basically beginning, middle, end of this fortress. And I did it all last night. It was a quick embarkment, and I made specific mistakes that we can talk about because, it made me a better player, and it can make you a better player by learning from it. So we embark here on the beach, and the idea is that we're going to mine in, go down, fight the aquifer, get underneath it, and then build some kind of mechanism that can siphon from the ocean and flood things infinitely, basically, in a controlled way. And I was going to use that to make a membrane so that no dwarves could come up and nothing could come back down. I'm sorry, no dwarves could come back up. And then actually I was thinking about how to handle migrants, because migrants would come from the surface. And the only thing I could think of was to make some kind of big toilet flushing mechanism where the dwarves would be called to an area with a burrow, into a room basically, that had kind of a funnel shape. And then I would flood that room and it would wash all the dwarves down a bunch of Z levels. And I'd have to figure it out. I think water breaks fall damage, but leave in the comments if that's not true. As I was planning this, I was like, I'm going to have to think of a way to do that. And I don't know how fall damage versus water works and things like that. Or even why, this funnel idea probably wouldn't work for a million reasons I didn't think of. But so right here, we're setting up. We just embarked. I'm digging my first room into the side of this mountain. You see that collapse notification is because we're chopping down big trees for wood. And let me tell you what I did wrong. So I got too focused on the mega project too early. That's lesson one. If you start a new embarkment for a mega project, you have to make sure that your fortress itself is actually healthy enough. I realized that I was rushing so hard, and you'll see at the end of this video, I do actually set up, I achieve the goal. I get under the ocean, I have the ocean controlled, I have the ability to flood. I basically have the mechanism ready, but in that I was rushing and I forgot some very basic things. So I realized too late that I hadn't set up butcher, kitchen, fishery workshops. Because I had rushed. I had just made a carpenter so that I could make one chair, so that I could assign a manager and start working on this. And I guess in my last mirthful embark, the dwarves kind of took care of themselves and were pretty happy, and the force was so good they didn't even have to work very hard to eat or drink. And this kind of seemed like it might be that on the surface, so I thought, I can let my dwarves take care of themselves mostly. I'm going to focus on this to get it ready, and they can just kind of live outside. Lesson 2, the thing that I really underestimated. And that's what's in the title and the thumbnail and stuff. I guess I didn't check about the savagery of this area. And I'm not sure what causes animal people to spawn, but you'll see a few times I'll open the other list, when you go to the list of all your dwarves, and then you can go to other, so things that you don't control. So like enemy combatants or merchants. When you go to other, it was constantly full of all manner, just all different kinds of crazy animal people. And they were kind of like aggressive animal people. So the thing that decides how much animals mess with you, and basically how often dwarves will just get attacked while they're trying to walk around on the surface and later in caves, is called an area savagery. And there's 3 levels. If I haven't gone over this, imagine just kind of like it's pretty easy to understand the different kinds of embarkments. It can be good, it can be evil, or it can be neutral, and then it can also be on a similar 3 levels. It can be very peaceful, regular, and chaotic, aggressive. And so picture it like a D&D chart, almost like a square of 9 things. I should just draw this, but yeah. So anyway, this turned out to be a very savage. It's a neutral environment, and very, very savage. And you'll see, I'm going to show my list of dead by the end, and my dwarves did a good job. The first 7 dwarves each took down 3 or 4 animal people, but every time they would get a little injured, they would have to rest, and the other thing is that, so because animal people are people, they're sentient ant creatures, and so they're constantly attacking my dwarves and forcing combat. But then when a dwarf successfully kills them, they get a traumatic negative thought, like major one, like, oh, I killed a man, and so all my dwarves are like very badly traumatized. Every day they're being forced to kill these like weird like Island of Dr. Moreau things that are just bothering them. And then and when I say like a serious negative thought, I mean, it would be one where when you go in the thoughts panel, it'll be like, I enjoyed eating at a dining room table, or like, I didn't like getting caught in the rain. But then there are like other ones that are like personality changing, like serious, like they'll remember it for the rest of their life. And I was getting indications like that where I was like, why are you so unhappy? And a dwarf was like, they were reliving the first time they killed somebody. And then like, I don't even know how advanced the PTSD simulation in Dwarf Fortress is. Does killing again, because each dwarf had to kill a few, so does each event like have a chance of triggering reliving the event? Anyway, so all my dwarves were very quickly like hating this place, feeling put upon and getting injured, and I wasn't even paying attention to them because so my last biome was mirthful, peaceful, which is probably the easiest. And I guess I didn't realize that normal is a little harder than mirthful in terms of keeping dwarves happy. And in terms of savagery, savage is way, way harder than peaceful. So I just wasn't ready. I was letting my dwarves do their thing because I was on autopilot from that easier map. And I was just building. You'll see by the end of this, I did a good job. We were totally underway, but I forgot to take care of the dwarves. And you gotta take care of the dwarves, my friends. I think at the height of this fortress's success, from the viewpoint of playing it correctly and having like a healthy community that can resist different challenges, I think it was at its height about a deal with the fish. Sorry, I was reading my save file to see what I was doing at that time. By the way, I think we've jumped forward once, and we're going to be jumping forward again to the end game. So I don't think I actually got footage of it at its height, but we were trading. We had like 22. That's my honest memory. I'm pretty sure it was 22 at the height. And because it's an island, I was surprised we got any migrants. But it did roll for us like once or twice. And actually, we've jumped forward, and yeah, we only made it to year 6. But it feels like it was more, honestly, because I feel like we traded like twice. I guess that's normal for a year. This is my list of the dead and missing, and more wild animals. I mean, I guess I need to learn how to do a savagery build. I imagine it's very much like embarking in an undead or any kind of hostile environment where you really want to cloister right away, make like a controlled, safe area, and then just like venture out. Kind of like Attack on Titan, or if you like that one, where there's a city and then there's excursions. I do need to teach myself how that works, the like raiding missions and stuff. Let me clarify my plan going forward, because I did kind of fail this challenge. My plan going forward is to unretire the mirthful one that I did before, and then that's a really healthy one, so I can use that to show you guys like magma pits, a lot of the like really deep earth content, which a lot of people are interested in. I actually made a video like 6 months ago, before the Steam version came out, that's about endgame content, and that one, since my channel has started growing, that one has like really picked up randomly from the old videos. People watch the first one and then they watch that one about the endgame with spoilers. Fair warning. And one thing I will say, because I don't want to be like the spoiler guy, the Dwarf Fortress community is intentionally kind of vague about the end game, and they really try not to spoil it for people. So I respect that, and anytime that I talk about it, I will do spoiler warnings, and I hope that anyone who chooses to watch enjoys and appreciates that. I hope I'm not making anyone angry by ever telling anyone, even if they ask. Anyway. So, okay, what are we looking at here? So you can see to the left there, the ocean is pouring in these 2 floodgates, which are controlled by a lever. And funny, not really funny story about this, but I actually dug this originally 1 level down, 1 level deeper, and the pressure was so much different, because it's an ocean, that it immediately drowned the dwarf who cracked it. And I get the impression they were slammed against the ceiling, crushed by the water crush. Not really a funny story, but so then I did it more at the surface, and you can see the ocean's just flooding in. You can see that water pressure. Water pressure in this is pretty cool. It's pretty realistic, at least as far as I can tell. And especially with oceans and things like that, the water cool, like intense water pressure stuff can be interesting. But then you see it goes down here, it powers a water wheel, and it powers it great. I mean, total power 100. I think that's maximum efficiency, like 100% of water wheel potential. And then it drains off the map here, but it also feeds a waterfall that's right in kind of I just realized I was pointing with my mouse at the video, but you can't see that, obviously. So, but right center screen, a little towards the top where the water is crawling towards, that's also a waterfall, which would have been great and really useful if, I kind of built that late to try to save this fortress as I realized, okay, so this is where, this is endgame, and where I realized that it's basically, done. I built that I was thinking about all my failings and I forgot what I was going to say. But I built that waterfall late and as a desperate attempt to get them out of this tantrum spiral. But then they were still getting attacked. And then I realized the same way that I set it up too fast and I realized too late about the butcher, the fishery, the kitchen. I realized too late that I didn't set up a hospital. So now half the dwarves of this 13 dwarf outpost, and you can see there's miasma rising off my stockpiles. I really am embarrassed. This is like when you show somebody your room and it's like really messy, and it's like you think that they feel less of you, think less of you. And this is one of those. I did fail, guys. I'm sorry, but again, I'm a man of my word. I'm gonna bring you my wins and losses, and I think next one I'm gonna go back to that aquifer one, just for a reset. And I'll think about mega projects that I can attack again. Every time that I try one of these, I am learning more about water engineering, so it's always worth it. And that's why I recommend to do this stuff once you're familiar with, once just playing Dwarf Fortress isn't stressful on its own at this point. These projects are like how you expand your skill set. I really need to learn how to use macros. I actually never learned how to use them in the earlier games, and then I was reading today, it looks like the Steam macros are not fully implemented or optimized yet. It's not quite as responsive, at least based on what people are saying, than earlier versions, because that happened with a few things. Like adventure mode doesn't exist yet. Like they're prioritizing what most people want, and I definitely respect that. But I do want to relearn macros because I'm tired of making individual bedrooms. I just want to print that stuff out. Oh, and you can see there's vomit in the hallway there's so much miasma. So dwarves are going to take care of their wounded friends and family, and it stinks so bad that they're vomiting in the hallway. I really apologize. This is a terrible fortress, but I did tap that ocean, which is something I've never done before. So, that's progress, and you can always start over. I'm going to reiterate, they don't market it this way anymore because they maybe realized it was bad marketing, but the official motto of Dwarf Fortress is losing is fun. Because that's what it's about. We're playing this fantasy simulator and seeing what we can make happen and getting better at it. So I'm going to go back to playing normal, and I think I can show you guys some cool stuff soon, like magma forges, and maybe cave life, useful things you make. Dwarven cheese I was reading about is actually pretty nasty, pretty gross, but dwarven cheese and dwarven milk are kind of some lore things that I believe you can make once you're in the caves. Basically, that's what you need. So yeah, maybe I'll make some like delicacy items and show that stuff off. I haven't done like an object stream where I talk about all my legendary items and how to get them and the most interesting ones. There's one that I never got that I really want, and it's called I forget, but the dwarf will possess a butcher shop as their special thing, and then the items they need will be like dwarven flesh, so they'll actually murder the closest dwarf. I don't even know if they can be distracted with a corpse, but that's a very rare like psychopathic killer rare mood. But it would be interesting because they do successfully complete the item if they're not struck down for the murder, and then you have a really cursed, a really sinister demonic item. All right, anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I hope I didn't ramble too much. This was especially a rambly one. But don't forget to like and subscribe if you made it this far. Seriously, the subscribers are going up every day, and that pumps me up. It makes me want to get better at this, at Dwarf Fortress, and at presenting, and at video making. And that's all things that I want to be interested in. So thanks again, everybody. Have a good night. Hey everyone. So if you caught my last video, you know that we now have about 70 captive clowns, which is of course dwarf speak slang for big demons that are hard to kill. We've tried traps on them. We've tried lots of things on them at this point. I'm going to take you through a few options and the way forward. We're actually making progress here. So, first thing I tried, pouring lava all over them. That did not seem to do much. It might have, I feel like it may have thinned the numbers, but I wouldn't be surprised if they were all immune. It did seem to create some kind of filter where either things called like steam demons, soot demons, ash spirits, things like that, where it's like it's like an elemental material, do seem to be like filtering up through the magma and then being on higher levels of these different, killing mechanisms that I'm designing for them. So magma, possibly effective, but doesn't really seem to be. I don't have any specific proof. Every type of demon where I was like, maybe these are not magma safe, I eventually found one that seemed to be swimming in the magma. I also tried, so somebody recommended obsidian, so when magma, same as Minecraft, when magma and water meet, you make obsidian, and that transformation is destructive on that tile. It makes a full, like a block, like a full, in that XYZ space, fully obsidian. So if anything is in there, it's obliterated. That proved to be tough. The footage you're going to see is actually me trying to pipe magma and water down to the demon room to clear them. And the problem is that anytime that you get this obsidian effect, it actually, because it creates a full block, it plugs whatever tube you're using to feed water and magma. So it's almost always self-defeating. The only way to do it would be to pipe magma in at like the floor level so that there's like, just a kind of a waiting pool of magma. And then you'd have to sprinkle water down from like more than one open Z level, which is hard to do when you're expanding outward. When you're working your way in to expand a containment room full of demons, that becomes especially hard to do. Because now we're talking about like a Sistine Chapel kind of thing where we're all high up in the rafters and we're carefully carving out this demon hostile space from above. So I don't know, that's too much for me. So obsidian destruction started to feel like not the way forward. You'll see here, I ended up just making progress with smoothing walls, creating fortifications, and then having archers just relentlessly shoot iron bolts through it. I have a stockpile of like 5,000 iron bolts at this point. We're very rich in iron. We have no flux stone, and we haven't traded for it either, so we have no access to steel, which complicates something that I'm going to talk about later. We're going to circle back to steel spikes, which was another viewer suggestion. But so no flux stone, no steel, but we do have 5,000 iron bolts, and we're making progress. Now I do have archers that are good enough that they can take down a bat monster, some of the smaller demons. They're hurting all of them. They're actually like going up to the fortifications, hammering bolts through, like a machine gun, and thinning these demons out. So the demon situation is getting more and more under control because we're now shooting them constantly with iron bolts that we don't need to recollect because we have so many, and we're also flooding them with magma. Not sure if that's even helping, but it does seem to agitate them. Like a lot of aggressive mobs will just sit there if nothing gets their attention. The magma seemed to agitate them in some way, and again, to filter like fat, I almost said fat, but I meant to say ash and frost and steam and what else? All the elemental things seem to rise to the top of liquids, and I think I saw on the wiki that that they can move the grates, they can move through wall and floor grates. If the floor grate is full of liquid, so like they can sublimate into liquid and then sneak through. So be careful. You'll see in this footage that all of my stuff is has a grate to keep monsters out, and then also has a floodgate, which is a not porous structure that you can toggle on and off. So in both cases, even if a demon can sublimate into a liquid, they won't come through. It's pretty tough, and now it's wasted because I'm not even doing the obsidian water magma thing anymore, but it was fun. It's always good to do some liquid engineering in Dwarf Fortress. But so yeah, we are making the most progress with just hammering iron bolts through. My archers are getting better and better, and they are killing some of these demons. The game is also spawning plenty of demons. It may be, I'm not sure if we can outpace killing them to how quickly that they fly up from the underworld, but I don't know, I'm optimistic about it. The other thing that I want to talk about, and this is going to be a few videos coming up because I had to read on the wiki and I'm in over my head about this. I mean, you guys are always great about giving me advice, so we'll figure it out together. But I think what I need to truly, methodically eliminate demons now from my, surface to center of the earth fortress is what one viewer recommended, which are steel spikes. So demons are trap immune, but specifically toggling steel spikes, which are different. They're programmed differently. It's literally physically spikes that you manufactured that enter a tile and cause damage at that moment if anything is in that tile. And some of the demons are so massive, like they're so heavy that they'll destroy other spikes, but steel spikes will do it. And the only thing that is stopping me from trying that, there's actually two crazy ideas that I might try if my dwarves can't just archer all these demons down. But steel spikes, which can be operated via a lever, but that takes you and a dwarf both focusing on that, which is not sustainable. That's not how we do things. That's not very dwarfy, as the community would say. So what I need to learn about is, and I'm going to make a video about this because this is definitely advanced engineering, is something called repeaters, basically. So, if you know in basic computing, like circuit gates, logic gates, you can do those with water patterns or movement patterns using pressure plates. And then you can create repeaters that will automate, for example, this steel spike trap where it's taking spikes in and out of tiles, basically stabbing up into tiles over and over again to automatically kill invaders or demons or anything in a certain room. So that's one thing that I'm going to look into. And then the other thing is somebody recommended something called Dwarven mine. This is going to be hard to say. Let me try. All right, take two. A Dwarven minecart blender. A Dwarven minecart blender. Which is actually apparently a well-established engineering feat. This is a standard stupid dwarf trick mega project. And it's just mine carts on fully powered rollers. So you have enough wind power or water power to power these rollers at maximum speed. And you specifically use platinum mine carts because I guess that's some ratio of like hardness to weight or something. But so ideally, the designs that I've been seeing are like a minecart drops down from another Z level, is like dumped as like garbage, and it lands on a track below, and then water-powered or air-powered rollers get this minecart moving so fast that anything that moves through this room, and there's no radius in the room around this minecart, so basically anything that enters is literally blended apart, is just bashed apart by this circulating minecart. And then some of the designs also have like, you build doors on the mine cart tracks that you can then close or like forbid, something like that. I still have to research, but that will derail the mine cart and so disable it, basically. So you drop these, so the rollers are always going at full power. The mine carts drop in from another Z level, immediately start accelerating to like murderous levels. And then when you want to power it down, you put a closed door in the way, basically. The mine cart bounces off, becomes, something to be grabbed for the stockpile, and then dwarves can come in and like safely gather all the goblinite, basically, all the blended up siege defenders or whatever. So that I'm of two minds. So the obsidian water thing didn't really work out. Because of the plugs. The archery thing is going fine, but it's not funny or cool enough. So if I can, I'm going to either look into getting some fluxstone for steel to start, and then I have to read about repeaters to get the spike trap going. Or the other thing is, what's the other thing? Somebody help me. What's the other thing? Let's see if I can still say it. A Dwarven minecart blender, which would just take, I could make one, I could set one up, but it would be so hard to get situated close to this existing room full of crazy demons. It's kind of the same problem as the water obsidian thing, you know, where it's like it's already an engineering project to control these demons being fed into me messing with them. So, and my archers are getting good enough, they might take care of the problem without me. But I'll report back either we're going to... Oh, so the other thing is that I do now have 2 pipes that pipe water and magma directly into the underworld, which means that I could colonize it. I could build a pillar of obsidian and then build stairs down that pillar of obsidian and actually be down there. So I'll let you guys know how it goes. All right, my voice hurts. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I love you guys. Thank you for your comments, giving me advice about how to handle all the stuff I'm talking about. And yeah, I'll catch you next time. I'll see you soon. Hey, watch my other videos. I know we all love Dwarf Fortress, but I also play other video games, and you can watch those as well if you wanted to. I also make those videos. Okay, thanks, guys. Catch you next time. All right, good evening, friends. Today we're going to talk about how to keep dwarves happy. Now, the more dwarves you have, the more there's going to be conflict, jealousy, tales of, I forget, what does it say on this title screen? Tales of cupidity and perseverance. The more dwarves you deal with, the more you're going to have to play peacemaker. But there are some easy ways to keep them happy, and I'm going to run you through. Some of these are borderline cheating, but you know, just use the ones you like. Don't use the ones you don't like. What we're looking at here is my custom waterfall. As you can see, I have a floodgate connected to a lever. So we can turn this off for repairs, for anything as needed. It will cut the river, but when it's open, it will bring water straight down through Z levels to create mist. For some reason, dwarves hate being caught in the rain, but they love being hit by a waterfall. It's very strange. I suppose in your imagination, they're not being hit by water, but they're just enjoying the mist. Here you can see, so this is a main nexus where all my dwarves pass through and they are forced to enjoy the waterfall mist. And this has been huge to keeping. You can see I have a population of 220 and we're doing pretty good. I mean, there's some unhappy people, but it's going good. And you can see I just pulled one up, content being near a waterfall. I was close to a waterfall, I'm very content. So here are the main things that you can do without cheating. Build a waterfall. Dwarves love waterfalls. Honestly, that's enough to keep them going. You build a waterfall, you force all dwarves to pass through where the waterfall goes. If people want help building a waterfall, there's lots of resources for that. I'd be happy to make a video. You can see I have a sewer system where the extra water floods off the edge of the map using fortifications. This is pretty basic engineering. And actually, this is actually a secondary waterfall. So while the water from the first waterfall is flowing, dwarves can get hit a second time with that good feeling of mist. Mist from waterfalls, incredibly helpful to keeping your dwarves happy. You can see right there, he just passed through mist, and he's saying, I feel so good. Euphoric from being inebriated. Other things, let me move on from waterfall. So you might see in the instructions for work orders, you can have your cooks make lavish meals, decent meals, fine meals. These, I believe they burn through your food stocks a little faster, but the dwarves appreciate it. Relatedly, build a nice dining room. Smooth the floor, engrave, nice furniture, statues. Dwarves will eat there. They really appreciate having a nice place to eat and to sleep. The other thing is, this is a little tedious, but you're going to want to build like a little 4x4 bedroom for each dwarf as much as possible. And the fastest way to do that is just place beds in a basic kind of like structure, you know, in like a 4x4 pattern, and then just mark each bedroom and don't even assign them because the first dwarf that needs a bedroom will claim it. So, you know, if you have 200 dwarves, try to build 200 bedrooms on like a floor of your mine. And that's really going to help. If they have their own bedroom, if they have a nice dining hall, if they have access to good food, and if they can touch a waterfall, most dwarves will not go insane with rage or depression. Most. So what we're looking at here are actually holding cells for vampires. I have 3 vampires, and they were all made vampires in the same way, where I have a big temple that all my dwarves like to worship in. But it is a vengeful god, and when certain dwarves get, red hot mad, they will have tantrums and they will commit vandalism. And the dwarves that commit vandalism in this temple, they have to the dwarf, to the man, been cursed with vampirism. And so what I do is I build holding cells, because I can't have them drinking blood and eating my other dwarves. I have a lever in an enclosed room, and I say, hey, go pull that lever, and then I lock the door behind them. They never die because they're immortal, and I just keep them there. Those are my least happy because they're trapped, forgotten in the walls of the mine. Again, sorry, grimdark. It's not kind to them, but they did vandalize a temple and get cursed by the gods themselves. So I mean, I can't help at that point. And then now they're going to start eating my dwarves. Anyway, as you can see, you can sort by happiness and unhappiness, and that's really useful. Sort by unhappiness and see what your most unhappy dwarves are complaining about. If they're like mine and they're just vampires who have been walled up as punishment for their vandalism, there's not much you can do about it, and it really doesn't matter because they're walled off, so their tantrums won't cause a tantrum spiral. They won't make other dwarves tantrum. So that's okay. But see, they'll complain about sleeping uncomfortably or not having good food or not having clothes is a big one. If they don't have clothes and things that they like, they'll get annoyed very quickly. All right, before we get too far, because we're about halfway through, ways that you can cheat. If you're like, oh man, I want to play this game. Back before Steam, there was a thing called Dwarf Psychiatrist where you could just type in a command and say, all of my dwarves are happy. You could just kind of lobotomize them and they'd all be super happy and you wouldn't have to worry about their stress. The closest equivalent to this one, where you can't cheat as much, is dwarves will constantly, and especially in bigger fortresses, dwarves will constantly demand guild halls. And then when you give them guild halls, they will demand more guild halls or nicer guild halls. But what you can do in settings, and you'll find it in gameplay, I believe, gameplay settings, you can turn the value prerequisite for a guild hall way, way down. So as soon as they ask for a guild hall, you just set up a zone, put one chair in there, and they're happy. Maybe put a statue. That will both make them stop constantly pinging you and demanding guild halls and then being sad if you don't do it. And then it'll kind of get it out of the way. And it'll also make all the dwarves happy because they'll feel respected because you hacked the game to make their standards for respect much lower. What else do I have for cheating? Oh, one other thing while you're in the settings, I think you actually have to edit the dinit.txt file. You'll have to look up how to do that if you're not familiar already. But I set alerts to pause my game much more often because I don't like when an alert comes in, but maybe I'll miss it. So I like to, as the user, be like, I'm going to continue. That's not really for happiness, but that's just a general quality of life thing. Get into dinit initialization text file, and you can look up how to do that, and make more alerts pause. That's just my opinion. Let's see, what do I have? Another thing. So in the same way that you're going to, this is not cheating, but this is just a general tip. In the same way that you're going to try to funnel dwarves through waterfall therapy, like force them to enjoy the waterfall, you can also build pathways. I'm showing my tomb now. These are all the dwarves that have died. There is no faster way to get dwarves very upset and up in their feelings than to not honor the dead. So make sure to honor the dead. If you can reclaim the corpse, then you can build a tomb for them. If not, make sure to engrave a slab so that the ghost will leave you alone and the family members will feel respected, that you remembered the dead. What was I saying just about? Oh God, I already forgot. Not guild halls, not dinit. Build areas that dwarves have to go through that are full of nice statues. That's a picture of miasma. You want to avoid that. Dwarves hate when things stink, and that's very relatable. That's my underground butcher for processing things that I've thrown down the pit. So build pathways where the dwarves have to admire. Gemstone windows are really good. Statues. Basically, while the dwarves are working, they have to admire and say, you know what, this fortress has a nice waterfall. It has nice statues. It has beautiful things all around, engravings on the walls. I can't complain that much. Looks like I'm almost out of time and I hit most of my notes. So what do we got? Waterfalls, statues, windows, make sure they have bedrooms, food, nice food, dining room, and then cheat if you need to. And make sure to like and subscribe. These videos are actually doing really good and it does motivate me. Thank you guys so much for your support. Dwarf Fortress community is so cool. And I'm honored to be part of it. I'm honored to know enough about it to maybe help people. So thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. All right, good night, everybody. All right, and welcome back. This is the food creation video. So in these 10 minutes, you're going to watch live gameplay, and we're going to create 900 food just by creating orders and adjusting work. So right now, already what we're doing, assigning more dwarves to hunting. This lets more dwarves grab a crossbow usually and some bolts and try to bring down an animal. This can generate meat. Now we're moving to planters. Already set to everyone does this. Fisher dwarves. Only select to do this, but we are going to assign some more. Dwarves love to fish, so you do have to be careful. If you assign everyone, they'll all fish. So, so just assign more. Everyone to plant gathering, more to fishing, more to hunting. Make sure you have butcher shops and fishers, like fish processing workshops. Make sure you have enough barrels. That is the main bottleneck in most situations. Right now I'm brewing, brew from plants, brew from fruit. Will create drink, which your dwarves need. Of course, if they're healthy, they won't want to drink water. They'll only want to drink some kind of brew. So right now we're generating more drink. We're sending more dwarves out for more meat. We're sending them out for more fish. And then the next thing I think we're going to do, if I remember correctly, is go to the surface and assign all the plants on the surface for plant gathering at priority 1. Part of what I'm also doing is cutting work orders that don't have to do with food production. If you're in a situation where, your dwarves are starving, this is how you turn hard, you break hard, turn left, whatever, with your fortress to just generate food. And you can already see the count going up. We're building some other workshops that are used to process food. You can see mostly in farming is where you're going to find these. Butcher, fishery, kitchen, all these, and just lets more dwarves take the job and handle it now. I'm checking my others to see if there's any animals that I can specifically target with my squads. That's like hunting, but even more like right now, you're specifically sending dwarves after an animal, and then they'll butcher it after they kill it. It's produces the same effect as hunting, but you can kind of like call when it happens. So I was looking, but there weren't really anything that I saw that seemed worth it, so I gave up on that to force the hunting a little bit more. And then this is where I assign basically everything on the surface through multiple Z levels. I assign it all as gather plant if possible. So now my dwarves are gathering plants. They're turning that plant into drink, even as they gather. We are constantly producing barrels. I cannot overemphasize, you should basically always have a work order making like wooden barrels or some material that's good to make barrels. So this is something that maybe new players won't know. Dwarven technology, barrels, I don't know if it's like really heavily salted or it's somehow like magically Dwarven refrigerated, but things in barrels, to my knowledge, never ever go bad. So basically, if you have food through any of the things we've just discussed, I'm building more workshops to process food. If any of these, if you don't have a barrel, it'll rot and it'll be a problem item. It'll be like refuse. But if you do have it, then a barrel, then that food is good forever. And so then your stockpiles can grow infinitely. You just keep assigning stockpiles that can accept food, have enough barrels, and then every little thing the dwarves do that produces food, if they find a berry, if they accidentally kill a deer while training, anything like that. If they're lazy and they have fishing assigned, so every time you ask them to do anything, they prefer to do fishing, it'll all go towards food and your dwarves will never be hungry. And this can be beneficial to like, I mentioned in the happiness video, like in the work orders, you can build lavish, fine, and decent meals. And that really helps dwarves like feel good about their life and not get too depressed in this hard world. And that burns through your food stockpiles. But so what gave me this idea was that a commenter said like, wow, I have a fortress about the same size as yours, but I have like only a few hundred of each type of food. And that like, it stressed me out to hear because it was like, oh, I would never do that. But I mean, that's, of course that's a new player. That's no judgment. But this is how you do it. So exactly. And even now I'm not even commenting on my dwarves because I'm just letting it run. So just these work orders, exactly like we have it. Build barrels, assign brewing, make sure you have stills to brew, and then just tell your dwarves to collect every plant they can, invite them to hunt and fish as much as they can. And then one other thing I wanted to actually answer this player who asked me this question is it really depends on your embark, because like a rich forest is going to have plenty of fruit. Your dwarves will never starve. And like some forests will have, animals. Deserts might have animals, but no plants or something like that, like roaming nomadic animals. Some places will have fish, some places will have no fish. So you really have to decide how you're going to do it. And the other thing is you can trade. I think I clicked on the trader a few times in here just to make sure I can't quickly get some cheese or some other specialty items, or like hive. You can build hives for honey. If you see any bees, just go in your work orders and build hives out of any material that you have. And honey is good. Cheese is good. Cheese you're going to buy from other civilizations until you get down into the caves. And then there's something called Dwarven cheese that you'll find out about. But yeah, at this point you can see I'm just kind of milling around. I'm making sure my dwarves aren't doing other things, because that's the thing. If a dwarf is like digging, if you're trying to expand too fast or anything like that, if you're trying to do anything else, it's going to take focus away. So if your dwarves are in like a hungry position and they don't have big stockpiles, like, for me, the way I play, I'm very messy. But my dwarves always have like way more food than they need, because dwarven refrigeration, these barrels are perfect. So, I mean, why not? But it is pretty easy to, here, I'm building farms underground. So for those who might not be aware, you can farm on the surface. You can also farm underground. Dwarves are kind of adapted to farm underground. And to farm, you need mud, which means you have to irrigate the area. Basically just flow water over it enough to create mud. And that's kind of circumstantial depending on what this situation is. That first map I showed everyone in the happiness video, the sand plain, it was impossible to farm on the surface, but irrigate underground and you can grow, there's like 4 or 5 classic dwarven crops. That's another thing. I'm just trying to pump my dwarves as hard as I can towards food production in these 9 minutes. And we're about 7 minutes in. And what else? Thank you for listening to my video, everybody. And thank you, to that person who commented. I hope this has been helpful. And I hope you didn't feel criticized when I said that. I was shocked by what you described your food stores as. It's just every player is different. A lot of players have criticized me for how disorganized I am. The cool thing about this game is that it's kind of so niche that whatever your style is a style, is established, is a real way to play it. I mean, if it's functional, then you must be kind of good at this game. So congratulations to anyone who has a fortress that is surviving right now. I guess I don't have much more to say in this video. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. I always really appreciate that. It helps these videos a lot. And yeah, I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. You can see right at the top. So not only did I gain just a hair shy of 900 food from midsummer to late summer, but my dwarves are all happier because they like easy tasks. I think like fishing. I don't have evidence for this, but I think that fishing and plant gathering, some dwarves prefer to do it, and that it improves their mood. So, all right, I'm running out of time. Thank you for watching. I hope this is helpful, and stay tuned for the next one. Good night. All right, good morning, everybody. And today we're going to talk about reclaiming fortresses. So if you made a fortress, and then gone to save it and looked in that menu, you've probably seen some options like retire fortress, abandoned fortress to ruin. And I guess we'll quickly go into that. So retiring is kind of like putting your fortress on autopilot, and then you can come back to it later. And in the meantime, you can play a different fortress in that world. Abandoning means you give up, like game over. The dwarves leave; they never try to come back. And both of these, well, retiring saves the fortress for you to come back to, but abandoned sites become sites. I should have said abandoned fortresses become sites on the map. And that means that you can interact with them, they, affect the map, and you can reclaim them. And an interesting thing about running a longer history in Dwarf Fortress, so like when you're creating your world, if you let it run for like 100 years, is that the game will also do this. The game will run fortresses, and that's what we're looking at here. This is actually when you reclaim a fortress that the game itself has made, because you made a new world, let it run for 100 years, and so the game was playing Dwarf Fortress with itself, basically, made these fortresses, and then decided that certain ones were abandoned, were game over. And in this case, on this map, they were all game over because of Forgotten Beast attacks. There may be other reasons, like sieges, any reason that you might have a game over, but in this case, it was all Forgotten Beasts. So what I did was I reclaimed a fortress from the game that was abandoned after 17 years, I believe. It said that they made 17 years of progress, and then a Forgotten Beast wiped them all out. And I've actually already met this Forgotten Beast. We have footage of this Forgotten Beast. He's in the thumbnail. He is now our pet. He wasn't that scary. That's the thing. So in his confirmed kills, he has like 53 kills, and that's in the lore of this game. He showed up to this fortress from the very shallow caverns, actually. The caverns start almost right at the surface, which is nice in some ways. But he killed all of the auto-generated dwarves, but the auto-generated AI dwarves did not have the same brilliant idea I did, which was after he chases a dwarf into a room the first time and kills him, set both of those doors to forbid, and then wall them over, and then dig in from the top. So now we have a Sarlacc pit. And if you've watched all my Dwarf Fortress videos, you know about the Sarlacc pit. The Sarlacc pit is obviously a reference to Star Wars, and it describes a situation where you have a safely entrapped monster and a pit, a Dwarf Fortress pit, above it, so that any prisoners, anything that you don't want anymore, goes in, and the Forgotten Beast, which is just chilling there, it doesn't starve or anything. It's just chilling there. It's very angry that it's trapped, but it'll just eviscerate anything that goes in there, and then usually heal up and just be basically like a organic bio garbage disposal kind of thing. But you can see, so here are some of the pros. Here's why you would want to reclaim a fortress. As you can see, this fortress is very neatly planned out, and it is very well equipped. There's like rooms full of statues. There's like bedrooms full of nice clothes. This is right at the beginning of the embark. So it's a prefab. It's a prefabricated fortress for you that you just have to explore. Full of stuff. This is a pro and a con, and I'll talk about that now. So I had no issue with the Forgotten Beast that had claimed this fortress, because I just locked him in a room. You would think that would be the hardest part, right? But actually what I found was the hardest part was when I reclaimed everything, all these items, the value of my fortress went from like 0 or whatever, like imagine a small number like 5. That's the average 7 dwarves showing up to a new place. But then as I had my dwarves reclaim all of this nice stuff that you're seeing, you see the 2 cheese rooms. So here's a quick interesting fact about the cheese. The cheese that wasn't in the stockpile rotted much faster. And I think the cheese that was not even in a barrel but sitting in that stockpile never rotted. So move your cheese to stockpiles quickly. I just got distracted and forgot what I was saying. Oh, so the main challenge of this was not actually that built-in Forgotten Beast. It was, in fact, that the value of my fortress skyrocketed so hard that in the first few migrant arrival rolls of the game's dice, internal dice, I immediately was given like 30 migrants, because it's trying to catch up to, it's saying like, oh, how nice is this fortress? How attractive would this fortress for new migrants be? And it was like, oh, it's a new game. And then the next time it rolled, it was like, whoa, I owe this guy like 1 million migrants. And so the problems that has caused is can quickly turn into a tantrum spiral, because I have to very quickly and by surprise set up a lot of bedrooms and all the amenities. They ate me out of house and home because I went from like 7 dwarves and food stocks that are appropriate for that into like
immediately zero everything because all the migrants showed up and immediately started eating stuff and drinking stuff, and I just wasn't prepared for it. And there was something else. Oh, they're getting themselves hurt in the cave a lot. So the cave is dangerous, but okay, so this is right there on the video. It says an ambush, drive them out. And you get that alert when something is sneaking, is stealthing towards you. And we were getting that early on, and we didn't know what it was, but it was in fact this forgotten beast stealthing in, and then randomly, I was very confusing because suddenly he's like deep in your base and eating somebody, but that's because he successfully it's hard to say. He successfully stealthed in. There he is. Now we're looking at him. So my forgotten beast in this case, and he's killed 60 dwarves right there. He just ate one, and he ate another one. I don't think I saved this one. I think this was me experimenting with him. Yeah, because he's already out. So that room to the south that he returns to right there is where we end up successfully locking him in. But this was a trial run. And the weird thing was he was actually eating troglodytes on his way. I was finding dead troglodytes, and I was like, oh man, what is happening? And he was just so stealthy. So this beast is a eyeless, poisonous bite frog. You can't tell from that image because he looks like some kind of dragon demon. But in the description, we'll see he is just kind of like a blind cave frog with a poisonous bite. And we end up locking him in this room. And don't worry, we don't save this version where dwarf after dwarf wanders in and is eaten. But just as a show of strength, I guess that's a tradition now on my channel where I will do a save scum version where all of the dwarves die to some monster just to show what can go wrong. But so I dug, there you go, that's me. And that's all my saves. So let's see. I'm just checking to make sure I didn't say anything too embarrassing in any of these. No, those all seem normal. Okay, we're going to keep going. I mean, the only embarrassing thing is that I do save hundreds and hundreds of times, but I stand by that. I mean, I got plenty of hard drive space, and it helps me cover up mistakes. So what was I saying? Oh, so we saved him in that room and dug down from this level that we're actually looking at now. And yeah, it's just a pit, so you can just drop things in, and they will go away. So what? Okay, pros. Yeah, so pros. A lot of workshops already set up, as you can see. You don't have to spend time on that. Cons of reclaiming a fortress. Randomly, you will not have the workshops you want. So, like, you'll get work orders stuck and be like, oh, they never had any stills. I can't find these stills. I don't know if it's like workshops when you abandon, if other ones decay, and maybe only these metalsmith ones stick around. That might make sense, actually, if it's like a fire-safe material or something, some tag on it. Because all I found in this were, like, really, really ample anvil workshops mostly, and no carpenters or stills or kitchens or anything. So actually, as I think about that might be why that happens. So what was I saying? Everything about reclaiming is kind of like a pro and a con thing, because like, as you can see, they immediately build in Forgotten Beast, but it's pretty easy to trap, and that's cool. This thing starts with magma fortress. It starts all the way down to the magma level, but so your map constantly has enemies that like a brand new fortress are probably not ready for. Oh, that was another thing that the migrants were causing trouble with. So once there were suddenly 50 of them, they were using these little sneaky paths that I had previously been able to use through the caves, where a dwarf would just skirt through there, not like antagonize any of the wildlife, and get back out. And we didn't have to like fish that much or anything because there was only 7 of them. When there's 40 instead, now I'm like, oh God, somebody go fish because we need fish, somebody go hunt, somebody, we got to make drinks. I'm like in panic mode to feed everybody. And so a bunch of dwarves who are brand new here wander down to the caves, piss off the wildlife, get pulled into the pond by grabbers, and I'm not watching. So it's like my population goes from 7 to 60, and then suddenly from 60 it's going 59, 58, 57, 56, and then, I flip my eyes away from it, and now it's back down to 30. And then everyone's very traumatized, and now we're in a tantrum spiral. So thanks to all the newcomers. It's my own fault. I reclaimed too quickly, so let that be a lesson. If you reclaim all the stuff in a big, nice fortress that was abandoned, the game is going to go, whoa, this guy just won the lottery. It's like if you win the lottery and then you hear about like everybody's like the winners, their family and friends all come out of the woodwork to be like, hey, give me some of that, and it ends up kind of like ruining everybody's life and just leaving hurt feelings. That was this fortress in a nutshell. And it's a shame because we did lock up. So one cool thing that I noticed is Forgotten Beasts, when they spawn on your map, in the other menu, they're referred to as uninvited guests, which is a cute little euphemism for it. But in this one, because we were the ones who showed up and he was already living there, it actually says current resident. So this is his, technically until we kill him, this is his fortress. But we've got a roommate situation now. So one thing that I discovered that was really interesting when I reclaimed this fortress, and I guess I had reclaimed game-generated abandoned fortresses before, but I never really picked up on this, is that it does give you little hints about how to play. Some of the official in-game architecture, there you can see our guest, or the resident, is locked up in his room. He's officially pitted. But so I didn't... The way that the game generates fortresses can give you hints about maybe how you could ideally generate fortresses. So like an example is, if you've seen in my other videos, the way that I make bedrooms is kind of work intensive and does not allow for the multi-paint tool to be used, because I don't actually enclose each one with walls and a bed. The game actually sets up huge like dormitories of like apartment buildings of private rooms. You'll see those in here. And then the multi-paint tool really kicks in, and you can... as long as each one has a bed, you place a bed for each one. You still have to do that, but you don't have to make a million little cubes in the zone painter. You can just paint the whole Z level, and it'll find every bedroom and assign 90 bedrooms if there's 90 little rooms. Another thing is like, so this fortress has a spiral staircase that goes or ramps technically. It has a spiral ramp that goes all the way down to the magma sea, to the magma layer. And it's like walled off from the caverns, so you can breach those when you want to. It's really, really well designed. And even in that spiral staircase, it has a column like of open air that goes all the way down, which I found useful. Right here, you'll see. It seems to be built-in, like a built-in waterfall. So the dwarves can walk this ramp in a corkscrew all the way down to the center of the earth, basically, almost, and that's fed by a underground lake right there, so it's never going to run out. It has, floodgates, so I can turn it off. But yep, it just goes down a million Z levels. Not a million, literally, but basically all the way down to the magma layer. I was thinking about just carving it open so that the water actually does, like, hit the magma and maybe start making an obsidian platform. The only thing is that might, well, I was going to say that might ruin the magma forges that are already built by the game there. But who cares? If I can get down there on like a floor of obsidian, I think I could just carve through that again and get my magma forges going again. So maybe I'll do that, actually. My waterfall goes straight down, and there's just one layer of stone connecting it on the magma forge level that separates it from the magma sea. I guess I will do that. All right, well, since my fortress is already spiraling out, I'll try to get some footage of that and put it in the community tab or something. And maybe I can save it. Maybe I can rewind with all my saves and figure out this migrant situation that so plagues me. This is not a political video. I don't have any feelings about dwarf immigration. But this was just there's my dormitory with auto painting bedrooms. This fortress can support that many. You really have to, almost like driving like a manual transmission car, like you have to ease these migrants in, take them out of the mechanism, or the gears are going to grind, and then like slide them back in just right into the machine, because otherwise you're going to get what I got, which was just a land rush, basically. All these random dwarves I never met running in, getting themselves killed in the caves, starting fights. Oh, the other thing, I don't know if this is a reclamation thing, but I got so many volunteers, humans constantly wandering in, offering to slay monsters, like, Witcher type dudes rolling in and being like, yeah, I'll kill monsters. And a lot of them get killed as we were taming this, because this cave is pretty wild too. I mean, I've seen serpent men, which wiped this base. I had to start over. There's, of course, the Forgotten Beast. There's also been, like, I don't know, they're babies or something, because this Forgotten Beast is a giant, truly massive blind cave frog, but there's also normal, quote-unquote, giant cave frogs. There's pond grabbers, like I said, when I first set the migrants, the huge immigration wave, when I was like, okay, then we're going to need food, so everybody, go gather food. Everybody got pulled into the pond by pond grabbers. It's a very hostile cave. But It's interesting enough, if you've watched my channel, you know that I have like six maps, and they're all interesting and challenging in their own way. I wasn't so distractible, I'd make more progress on each one, but I don't know, I just like doing new embarks. Oh, I owe shout out. So I've been promising one of my viewers an undead whale in a cage since, well, I didn't promise I could do it, but I promised that I would try. And so now, I know you're going to see this video, Saltwater, and I apologize. I'm pretty sure it's Saltwater who's been bothering me about it, and if that's wrong, I'll pin it in the comments as a correction. But I think Saltwater is the one who's been demanding an undead whale in a cage. Every time I embark now, I specifically for you will run an embarkment search for evil oceans, just in case, just to keep an eye out for that Moby Dick, that rare white whale, just so maybe I can come back the conquering hero who does any insane thing that the viewers ask him to do. I think that's all I got. Reclamations can be good. You got to do them carefully. Main thing, don't reclaim too quickly. Like, it's a discipline test, because it's like, if you had an infinite access to all the items you wanted, could you only take what you needed for your first 7 dwarves, or maybe for 14 dwarves, for the immigration to proceed normally? At least that was for me. Maybe there was some other confounding circumstance. Maybe, we were right on the border of a dwarven city or something else that also triggered that. But that wiped me out more than the current resident, who will, by the way, if it's like my fortress, who will, with very high stealth, sneak up on you and cause a huge problem. But hopefully it becomes kind of like a game of Among Us at that point, where like as long as you can isolate, as long as he doesn't reveal himself in the middle of an operation and everybody panics and is in big trouble, if you spot him as one person goes down and you hear the dying scream and you can isolate him, really not that much of an issue. As long as mine also only had a poisonous bite. If it was able to fly, or if it had poison breath, or fire breath that it could expel, or if it could break construction, so it could break down the door or break down the wall behind the door, I would be in a lot more trouble. This would be a lot harder, and I wouldn't be able to act as tough about having just locked the doors behind it. I think that's all I got for this one. I definitely recommend you check it out. So to reclaim one of these, to get one of these for yourself, all you have to do is run a world with history, let the game kind of play itself for 100 years. That's how much I did for this one. If you look, we're on year 101. So yeah, I've been here for a year. The game played this fortress for 100 years, or technically only 19 years, I think, is when it started playing this one. But it ran this for 20 years, and it's a cool little fortress. And if you can do it right, if you can get in there, it's very, very secure. Has lots of things you need. It can be very interesting. Thanks for watching. If you made it to this point in the video, please always like and subscribe if you haven't already. I really appreciate everybody as these subscribers grow. Let me know if you have an idea for a subscriber special, and don't say undead whale in a cage, because I can't promise you that I will definitely do that for 500 subscribers or something like that. But something that I could do, I'll do, because I appreciate y'all. Thanks for joining me on this, and I will catch y'all in the next one. Have a good one. Hey everybody. So today I'm going to take you through a goblin siege and how to deal with it. On the right side of your screen there, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more than that armored goblin siegers coming in. There's also snatchers on the left side of the screen, which you will see, I think, like 6 or 9 of, a bunch. So this is a coordinated, these are snatchers coming for the dwarven children, and also armored combatants coming to just maraud. And so I have it paused here as I'm planning what to do and showing, watch the mouse on your screen to see how I'm dealing with it. This is not as scary, four snatchers in a column there, I see. So the first thing I'm doing is moving all of my dwarves to an underground burrow, which is far from this action. And the reason I was clicking, you can see right there, hide underground. That is my instruction in the burrow. And everybody is in that burrow. And I'm sending them down into the mines to get out of this fight. The reason I clicked on that one dwarf was because he was closest to the goblins and he wasn't moving yet. So I was like, that's why I found those last that weren't even assigned. And I clicked him in and I was like, yeah, no, you need to move. And I'm saving Because, save during sieges, especially with a nice Steam ability to go back and branch off saves. Go for it. Don't play. That's my opinion. A lot of people think poorly of save scummers, but I say have the best fortress you can. So now the goblins are coming down. They're firing arrows. The dwarves are now fleeing. This siege, as you can see, they see the rectangles at the top of the screen. There's a big rectangle, that's the bridge, and then the smaller ones are actually cage traps, and that is the crux. This is Dave's cost-effective goblin siege defense, and all you have to do is put cage traps everywhere, and then pull your dwarves underground, and the dwarves will not trigger the cage traps, of course, but they will lead the goblins into the cage traps, and then get your squads ready. Assign them as efficiently as possible to kill all goblins that are not in cages. Now, this is important. Soldiers, for some reason, when they're assigned to kill a goblin, will continue to try to kill that goblin while the goblin is safely in a cage and they cannot be hurt. And so it will result in this frozen stalemate where the dwarf is outside like, I can't get my weapon into between the cage bars, so the goblin's safe. But it's a little glitch or a quirk of the engine. But so what you are going to want to be doing during the sieges, and I'm targeting right here, you see I'm clicking on the goblins and assigning them in my squad in the queue menu. But then other goblins are already in my cage traps. So I have to make sure that these are not assigned because that will distract the soldiers. They're gonna bug out basically and try to kill these invincible already captured goblins. So that's most of the management is you're going to be getting your squads ready and assigning them to attack. You see in the list of other creatures, have them attack the invaders, not the caged prisoners. And as long as you do that, as long as your dwarves are ready and they have gear, they have armor, weapons, ammunition if they need it, they'll take care of it. I'm looking at this very hurt dwarf, ability to stand lost, no treatment scheduled, of course. So we are going to lose about fewer than 10 dwarves, but something around 5%. Is that right? If I have 200 dwarves and I lose 8, I think, and sorry, make fun of me in the comments if I'm wrong, but we shaved off a little bit of the population repelling this, but the result is that we end up with, I think by the end of this, actually, 7 of the goblins have tripped cage traps and are just now my prisoners. I tried to sell them to the merchant, because sometimes the merchant will buy a caged yak or a caged crow. I did try to goblin traffic the captives of war, which is pretty dark, but Dwarf Fortress is Dwarf Fortress is an extremely grim, dark universe. If you don't understand that yet, you need to understand it. There are going to be slave traders. There are going to be intricate plots that end in someone innocent dying, things like that. If you played RimWorld, you're also familiar with organ harvesting. It's a grim, dark, it's a very brutal world. This is my level. This is the safe level. You can see there's beds, there's craft, there's a big stockpile, so my dwarves can chill down here and be fine while the invaders turn to cage prisoners. And so, and there you go, I'm saving 6 invaders left. So this is half mopped up. But the problem is that a few of these goblins are pretty agile or, step past their captured friends, and they're still making trouble. So there's actually a few in this stockpile. They made it below ground. After this invasion, I beefed up my defenses because they got in too deep. But I do send my squads, and because it's a fortress of 200, I send 50 guys, and they end up Gen ladies. There you see all my different squads being assigned to the ones that are still free, and they will mop them up. This is actually an 11-minute video. That's how long the siege takes, and I'll leave the footage in there. I invite you to have a look and see how I resolve this, and you'll confirm in the final seconds that every invader is caged, has been neutralized or is killed, and I end up down, I think, at 192. The main thing about sieges is that it will cause a negative feeling cascade in the whole, everybody who sees somebody die, everybody who lost somebody, of course, every dwarf that, or especially, I have, from the last siege, I have PTSD cases where they're injured veterans of these, and they can still work, but they have very poor mood, and you have to be gentle with them. You have to take, you kind of give them a nice bedroom, give them, nice food, they're emotionally damaged by the combat. So, sieges are not fun games. It's grimdark and it imitates reality.
But yeah, I think that's all I have to say. Feel free to watch out the rest of this. I wonder if YouTube will penalize me if I'm not talking, if it's just perfect silence for the next half of it. But there are 11 minutes of footage. That's really what I would, and maybe I'll just keep talking and I might actually make it to 11 minutes the more I think about this. So, cages. So you need some kind of metal. I don't think you can build wooden cages. I don't remember. Maybe you can. I don't remember. You have to look into that. But cages is the function of search for work orders. And then cage traps. I think all you need to set a cage trap is a cage and then a mechanism. And they work. I mean, they're actually kind of OP. They're overpowered because they will never, as far as I know, malfunction on a dwarf. But 100% of the time, if an animal, if anything dwarf size steps that is not allowed or that counts as trappable, it will be trapped. And then you just have it. You can move it between stockpiles. This is what I'll talk about for the last 4 minutes. So what do you do with your prisoners? I already mentioned the very dark, arguably some would say unforgivable thing where I was trying to sell them to the traders, but the traders don't want goblins. Goblins are just trouble. All they'll do as soon as they're out of the cage is go blah, 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 and run around and make trouble. So they're not even useful like a yak or even a blue jay would be. So I'm not even sure if they were counting against what the trader would accept. So like the way it works when you're trading is it'll do the value of the cage plus the value of anything in it. But some of my goblins were so low, it was like 25 gold. I wasn't sure if it was a terrible cage plus 0 gold for the goblin, or if it was like a nice cage and the goblin was bringing down the value. They're like, oh, I want this cage, but I wish it didn't have a goblin in it. So you can't really sell them. I have 2 areas for dealing with prisoners of war. And again, it's not like RimWorld where you can kind of brainwash or rehabilitate people into your community. As far as I know, these goblins are just going to be troublemakers. So, okay, so I'm still mopping up the last 2. Oh, this is actually, so one of my dwarves is kind of dying. I think we save him, but he's very injured, it said, in that river up there. And we're still trying to get, they're still dealing with the second one that's below level. So it takes a while for the response time. I'm checking on the response time to try to get as few dwarves injured as possible. But so when you have goblins in cages, mostly I feel weird saying it, but mostly what you're going to want to do is execute them for their stuff, for their gear, because they're going to have weapons and like a nice stuff that your dwarves can use instead. And, they came here to just kill and pillage. So, it's all told, it's fair. It's, fair's fair, kind of turnabout's fair play. But so what I've devised, and this is a video, so I can't actually show you. It's not a live thing. Wow, I did actually talk through all of it. That's great. But what I devised is basically a pit. So pits are important zones. You put it over open area, and then the dwarves will, when you assign something to the pit, the dwarves will bring it if they can and drop it in. And you can do that with like animals, like 1Z level, they won't be hurt and they can be kept, in a pen or something. But what you can do is you can build a pit that goes down 10Z levels and has big spikes at the bottom or, damaging traps, and then more cage traps in case, they still somehow survive that. And what you do is you just pit the goblins. You bring the cage close to the pit so that they can't resist arrest and like struggle their way free or anything. And the dwarves will just toss them in that pit and they will fall 10Z stories and hopefully die. And if not, they'll be caged again and you can just keep doing that. And again, like, I feel like I'm going to get a complaint for this awful things that I'm doing to goblins, but they started it in Dwarf Fortress, and this is very standard. This is how you process prisoners of war. To my knowledge, leave it in the comments if you have a more humane way of dealing. I would be willing to bet that no other Dwarf Fortress player has something better. And in fact, if you look up like ways of dealing with prisoners, you'll find things like drowning machines, which is also something that I'm considering because I have a waterfall system that has like a sewer system that fills. Very dark, but that's what you got to do. So, I mean, it's a very different game if you play with enemies off. That's all I'll say. It can be a peaceful, nice game, but very grimdark otherwise. It looks like I only have about a minute left. So I'll just say, everybody, thank you for your questions. Thank you for listening to these videos. And yeah, just please like and subscribe and keep watching. It's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun playing Dwarf Fortress again. Thanks, everybody. Good night. Hey gang, and today I have some really exciting footage. Definitely spoiler warning, we're going to see everything about Dwarf Fortress Endgame coming up right here. So, if you all saw my last video, I was asking for help because I was looking for a candy vein. Well, I've given so many spoiler warnings, I'm just going to talk about it if everyone doesn't mind. So I found some adamantium, but I did not know where it was. So by that I mean the game had told me, like, hey, I found some adamantium. There is some on the map, but I didn't see where it was. And a bunch of people gave me suggestions on how to find it. And one person specifically asked me to thank their mother, so because she's a nice lady. So thank you to Woke Alarm's mother and to everyone who gave me advice last time on finding the adamantium. So we did end up finding it, and so here's how to survive. Here's how you survive breaching the circus, the underworld. And you can see right there, I'm building 3 defensive walls. I'm going to put doors there as well, and then forbid those doors. And that's going to create a holding area, like a little bubble, because when we breach through, there's going to be a huge amount of aggressive pressure coming out into our fortress. You know what I'm talking about. I think I described it in my first video about the endgame as like a fire hose, a high pressure fire hose of intensely strong enemies. So you have to definitely secure the area around the vein before you go in there, and that's what I'm doing. So I'm building these walls, and you'll see they end up, it's a good thing I built 3, because in that serpentine, back and forth fashion, because that means it takes longer for the monsters to get out. And you'll see that they ended up breaching so fast that I only held them in with that last wall, the farthest one out. And since this footage, what I've done is I've actually extended this area that the demons have access to. And it actually goes up a few Z levels into a private room with fortifications. I'm now using my archers to train on them. But I tell you, these demons are so hard. So I have it as like a valve system. So all the demons are sitting in this room that we're building now, basically. And then I got lucky because I don't know if this is normal, but all of my demons can't destroy walls and they can't break down forbidden doors. So what I just do is I have all these valves of passable / forbidden doors, and I just let one demon come further into my fortress, into that controlled room, and then I have my archery guys practice on him through the fortifications, but he is still, he's healing so fast they can't even hurt him. And he actually has a poison gas attack, the one that came through and I let my dwarves practice on. He has a poison gas attack that also goes through the fortifications. So we're struggling with that. I'll continue to show. My mission, now that I've safely done this, is to just clear all these demons and then maybe try to get down into the underworld myself. But that's a long way off because it generated me about 70 demons and I can't even kill the first one. But it is controlled. So my fortress has now lived for 3 years since breaching into hell. Because I've been playing all day. It gets especially fun when these demons are in. It's like, water or magma engineering, but even more dangerous in terms of like having a controlled area that you carefully expand from the outside. So right, I think here, nope, not quite. Thanks to everyone who gave me advice. I did try changing the graphics to the original, but I still didn't find it. This was actually hidden so well that I had to just explore around, and then I finally found what the game called like a glittering wall of gems in the magma sea, and that's where I found, when I started carving through that, somebody recommended that's where you're going to also find the adamantium veins, and I did. That's what ended up happening. So this is the chasm that goes down, and I'm just building a second little optional entrance that we never finished because of the way it turned out. But you can see I name it right there, alt entry to tube. Yeah, this went really well. I was really pleased with myself. Now I'm a little frustrated because I can't even kill one of them. I have to get I'm going to make my dwarves train until they can take down at least one demon in a controlled setting, and then after that, I guess I can start really clearing them in earnest. But you'll see, the graphics, they did a really good job because a bunch of different monsters come out. So a few funny things that I already learned about dealing with demons is, the first thing after I had them trapped was I made a hallway with lots of damaging and cage traps, because that's how I usually deal with things. But then I realized that all the demons that come up in the clown car can fly and are trap immune, so that's not going to do anything. I also then tried immediately doing fortifications right here so I could shoot in, but the result was that too many of my dwarves could see all the monsters as they walked by and would flee in terror, so it like made this whole level of the fortress like inaccessible, because every time a dwarf came down they saw literally legions of hell and would chicken back out. So I ended up having to get rid of the fortifications, replace them with things that couldn't be seen through, and then I moved them up into a more private area for that only the soldiers will randomly see when they go in to actually kill a demon. So we're building these walls and the doors. This is what saved my fortress. If I hadn't done this, it would have been immediate game over. If you just tap into an adamantine vein, and I've been saying adamantium and adamantine, and now I'm not sure which one it actually is, but if you tap into one without having a containment area, then you're out of luck. I mean, I don't know of a way that you could have dwarves that were combat ready enough to actually take down the clown car. I mean, it's designed very deliberately to wipe your base. So that's me setting up bedrooms while my dwarves work. And now I've given them permission to dig out the rest of this gem wall. That's what the green indicators are. And in just 1 second, he's about to breach through, and we're going to get all the notifications. I think I lose 2 or 3 dwarves that end up being sacrificial as they flee out, and then I had to lock the door. You know, it's like the airlock. I had to seal it. There we go. Discovered an eerie cavern. Adamantine. Confirmed. I'll stop saying adamantium. Adamantine. And there it is. There's our hellscape. Totally clear. And then now, because we have visual into hell, I can see where the other adamantine veins were. And yeah, they're all just hidden in weird places. So now I am, and there it is, horrifying scream. So here comes the clown car. And this is when I start moving my guys out. And at first I was like, wait, do I have enemies turned off? Because I got the horrifying screams and I wasn't immediately murdered. So I was like, wait, did I make a mistake? Turns out it doesn't matter, actually, because I think I did check and I had enemies off at this point, but the clown car is not optional. So you're going to see, yeah, the 3 dwarves in here, maybe 1 escapes, but fire hose of demons is about to be turned on. There it is. And it does look cool in this version. I like the Steam version. And yeah, some can't fly and they'll stay on the ground, but the rest can, and they are coming right up. So yeah, I'm going to look at a few of these. If you haven't seen the demons yet and you're curious what they look like, what kind of abilities they have, apparently some can cast spells through fortifications in addition to like poison gas and stuff. So I might really be in trouble when we get to, like, there's these things called like white spirits, and it's like a giant snow golem. There you go. So they're pouring up. The dwarves are now fleeing. 1 gets eaten, 2 gets eaten, but I make that door impassable. And luckily, like, I don't know if I had good luck, but these demons don't break down constructions or doors. So now that's my demon room, and that's what it looks like now. I've been playing all day since this happened, and this is just what the room looks like. Like I said, I let a little one out. I let a little bat monster, one of the smaller ones, out to test on it, and it's immune to traps. Nothing I tried works. My archers can't even do enough damage to overwhelm how quickly it heals, but they're contained, so this fortress is still happy and healthy around this containment, so I have all the time in the world to pick at it and figure it out. If you made it this far in the video, please like and subscribe. The channel growth is really important, and I appreciate it. You know, I think when I make it to 2,000 subscribers, they'll actually start giving me a share of that sweet ad revenue. So if we could get there, I'd be really happy, and I would have more time to work on these. So definitely consider it. Thank you for watching. Definitely going to show you guys more. This is the frozen beach again. I'll show you more from this map, because now this is my best map. It's got a cool evil weather thing on the surface. It's got 3 interesting caves, and it now has access to hell with a contained clown car being the only thing that stands in the way of us actually getting down there. And yeah, check it out. All these different monsters. I think I go to the others list and you'll see that there's like 70. But yeah, I was so excited. I had to share with you guys. Thank you for your help in the last video when I was like stuck in the magma sea and trying to find it. Your encouragement really meant a lot. And to give credit, I think the guy who actually got it right was the one who said, look for volcanic gem walls and just keep looking, be patient. But I appreciate all of you. Thanks so much for watching. And yeah, I'll have more updates on the next one. Okay, so I think everyone knows how a tier list works. We're going to talk Dwarven metals and what, in my opinion, the tiers of all these metals are. We're going to talk about every metal in Dwarf Fortress, as well as all of the alloys. So let's just jump right in. So aluminum, pretty rare, not really good for weapons, not terribly good for armor, anything like that. So it's not roundly useful, but it is really useful if you want to make barrels, or something that would be benefited by how light it is. Something that gets moved all around the fortress all the time, you want that to be made out of something light so that the dwarves can carry it more easily. So, you know, like a wheelbarrow or a barrel, these are the main examples that are coming to mind. So aluminum has its uses, not really good for everything though. And so I'm going to put aluminum in the... Honestly, with the rarity, the fact that you so rarely even see it, I'm going to put C tier. We're just going to start off... Sorry if I'm already offending people. Leave it in the comments if you disagree with any of these rankings, by the way. Definitely, absolutely. So the next one in our list, alphabetical, is bismuth. So, very charming color. That's the main thing about it. I'm not sure, I'm actually going to pull this up right now, I'm not sure that it's actually good for weapons or anything. It is only used, I'm confirming, it is only used to create bismuth bronze. So it's only used to create an alloy that we're going to talk about later that has some value, has some reasons why you would make it. So very rare, not very useful. It's good for, you know, Pepto-Bismol. And in fact, the Wikia makes a joke about that too, because that bismuth is actually the main ingredient in a lot of stomach relief drugs, or at least the one I'm thinking of. But so very rare, not terribly useful. Only kind of comes into play with like complicated ores later. Well, but it does have a pretty color, so I'm gonna put this in. I'm gonna put this in E tier. Not completely useless, but nothing to write home about either. And you know, it's a shame because it is actually a really interesting element in real life. But moving right along. All right, copper. Copper is a big player. If any metal is going to get S tier, it might be copper. So like, I might just have to put it on there. But like, let me explain my reasoning. So copper is relatively lightweight. It's not the lightest, but it's pretty light. So you can do the barrel and the stuff I talked about with aluminum. It is also good for weapons, it's also good for tools, it's hard enough. So but copper is really, really important. You can use it for military stuff, you can use it for furniture, it's valuable, you can make coins out of it. Basically anything that you would want to do with a metal, you can do with copper. The more I talk about it, the more I convince myself. Copper is absolutely S tier. Alright, we'll just move right along. So, gold, next alphabetically. We all know gold. Valuable, good for coins. Soft, not really good for armor, weapons, tools. Kind of a lazy metal. It's also relatively heavy, so you don't really want to do barrels and stuff with it, but it does make things very valuable, makes nobles happy, makes royalty happy, shows your wealth, which is how you grow a fortress in the first place. You know, migrants only come when there is wealth. So useful for trading. I'm going to put this in... Let me see, for all the metals that exist in Dwarf Fortress, I'm going to put this in B tier because of its limitations for weapons and things like that, which something that's like silver, which is less valuable, or something like platinum, it would blow it out of the water in terms of usefulness. So anyway, moving right along on that. Next one is iron. That's another common one. That's one we all know. Very useful for tools. This is it's the main... Oh, I know what I was thinking of. I'm actually going to circle back and correct myself. So I believe you can build copper picks, but what I was thinking of that is exclusive to iron is anvils. Anvils can only be made out of iron and steel. So really critical. If you don't bring iron or you don't have a source of iron, you'll regret it pretty quickly. It's also the pathway, iron itself is the pathway to pig iron and to steel, which is the strongest material in the game besides a mythical element that is a late game spoiler. So I'm not going to talk about that. Actually, I should have clarified that. So I'm not going to talk about any of the magic metals. We're talking about the normal metals, the worldly metals of the game. So just having cleared that up, iron is the only, what was I saying, is the only thing to make anvils, and steel is the only metal that's hard enough to penetrate clowns usefully in combat. You can use like copper bolts and things, but like a steel spike, we learned in my video earlier, Clowning the Clowns, that it has to be a steel spike in a trap for clowns or else it'll break because they're so massive. So iron is really, really critical. It is a little heavy, it's a little not super valuable, but it's the mother of so many things that I have to... Well, should I put it in S tier or A tier? I'm really debating. It's like right here. Because copper truly does everything. What was I thinking of? But by that merit, iron also has so many special things. So yeah, it gets S tier as well. Copper and iron, so critical. Oh, they're also both so common. Like every fortress is built on copper and iron. It just is. So like, it's as simple as that. It has to be S tier as well. All right, moving right along. Lead. We know lead. Now in Dwarf Fortress, it doesn't actually have the health complications programmed in yet, so it's not to be avoided for that reason, but it is extremely heavy, which makes it useful for if you're building a pit trap, because fall damage is calculated based on the hardness of the floor and the heaviness, or really the density of the floor. Lead will make things splat in a pitfall better. It's also good for, it's very heavy, so you don't want to make barrels or really anything that has to be moved out of it, but you could conceivably, I'm actually going to look into this now because I'm not sure, can you even make, you can certainly make furniture, but I'm wondering if you can even make armor out of it, or if it's probably too soft, right? Here, I'm going to pull this up really quick. This is mentioning, I'm reading from the wiki now, it says, like most metals, but it's low value and high weight make it a poor choice for personal objects or anything portable, respectively. However, lead items that are not weapons or armor are just as strong as any other metal. So yeah, specifically they make that, so it's not as good for weapons and armor because it's soft, but you can make mechanisms out of it. You can do anything with it that you want that's metal. So it's really just kind of like a meh kind of substance, and because it's so heavy and soft, there's not too much that you can really do with it. So this one's going to get, I'm going to make the call, let's see, I'm going to put this in D tier. Alright, moving right along. Nickel, this is one that's kind of rare, and it's mostly only used for alloys. It's another one that's kind of like tin or aluminum, where it's not so heavy, so you can use it for a lot of things, like barrels and stuff. It's a good option. I'm not even going to say too much about it. It's pretty rare. It doesn't come up, and when it does, it just kind of mixes in with the copper and the tin and stuff. You can use it for alloys, which we'll talk about, that can be useful, mostly for you know, creating luxury furniture and items and things that you can sell. So I'm going to put that in, that's the solid C tier. I'm not sure why the squares started becoming different shapes, but this is actually my first tier list ever, so thanks for bearing with me. The next one on the list is platinum, is that it is extremely heavy. It is almost as heavy as lead. So all the things that we said were good about lead are basically as good for platinum, plus it's actually valuable, you know, like, plus it actually, you know, gives dwarves happy thoughts. We haven't talked about that yet. Shininess and like how pleasant it is to look at increases the odds that dwarves will be happy around it. Will be like, I love, you know, working with this stuff. I love silver, it's so pretty. And so platinum's good for that. Nickel is good for, I think nickel goes into sterling silver. We're gonna find out when we get there. But so platinum is gonna get, I'm gonna put that, we don't even have an A tier one yet. I'm gonna say platinum A tier because it is more useful than gold because it's not that soft. So you can, now I'm looking up, can you make platinum armor? It says, I believe you can. I think you can use it for everything. Correct me if that's wrong, but I think you can use it for everything. The comments are going to be wild on this one. Everybody arguing with my rankings and probably correcting me on a bunch of stuff. So the next one is silver, which we know about. We've even talked about as well already a little bit. And how you might prefer it to gold, even though it's less valuable. So you can use it for nice things, fancy things, goblets. You can use it for weapons. You can make bolts and things. Oh, it also, in this game, kills werewolves. I'm not sure if it has that same effect on vampires in this game, but you can definitely use it. I believe that is coded in. So it does have some extra lethality. It's beautiful. It's good. It's, you know, a little heavy, but it's still kind of medium. It's not even that much worse than copper. So you know what? Silver's going to get... I'm going to put it up here. So what do we got for copper, iron, and silver? I'm going to put... Nah, silver is not as good as copper and iron. When I said that out loud, I felt silly. So that's actually going to go in the A tier. There are a lot of shades of gray in this. Next pure metal, and we're almost done, is tin. We're almost done with the pure metals, and then we're going to talk about all the alloys. But so tin is fairly common. It comes from cassiterite. Very light, very useful, like aluminum. Honestly, not too much to say about it. It's virtually identical to aluminum, at least in my opinion. So, and I believe that we put that one in C, right? And then, of course, we have zinc. It's the last of the totally pure metals. And so zinc is basically like tin, nickel, aluminum. Lightweight, useful for some things, especially like storage stuff. We're gonna just go ahead and put it with its brothers, right here. All right, now here's where it gets interesting, and it might be a little more controversial because we are going to talk about alloys which are very preferential. It's really a matter of taste. So first, alphabetically, is bilin, which is a combination of silver and copper. So that sounds pretty nice, right? Has all the benefits of two very high-ranking metals. I don't ever make this stuff myself personally, but if you wanted to, it would be. It's certainly not, because copper and iron have so many like unique properties. I wouldn't say that it's better than that. So I'm gonna put bilin. Bilin goes right there. Next one is bismuth bronze. I've actually been calling this bismuthinite. That's actually the name of the ore. I apologize. I was probably driving somebody crazy. So it's just bismuth. Bismuth is the pure metal, of course, and bismuthinite is the ore that it comes from. I apologize for that. I am gonna just cross out. There we go. Very good. This is gonna be the messiest rank chart you've ever seen. Okay. Bismuth bronze is functionally identical to standard bronze, but it does look a little nicer. So we are gonna put it up here with like lead. Ooh. We are going to put it right down here in the D tier with lead. Or, you know, bronze is actually pretty useful, good value, and can make weapons. So I'm going to put it in C tier in anticipation of wanting to put bronze in C tier. Or maybe even B tier. I mean, because bronze is pretty good. It's pretty cool. I'm gonna put bismuth bronze, just to clarify, in B tier in anticipation of saying that actual bronze is also B tier. Brass. Oh, I haven't been giving the recipes. I apologize. So bilin is silver and copper. Bismuth bronze is 1 tin, 2 copper, 1 bismuth. Black bronze is our next one, and it is 2 copper, 1 silver, 1 gold. Again, just kind of a unique color of bronze, so that's going to go in the B tier also. And brass, now we're on brass, which is zinc and copper, of course. I am actually not sure. I think brass and bronze, I get those two confused, so I want to look this up and make sure. So the wiki is saying brass can be used to make furniture and other objects at a metalsmith's forge. So it's a very profitable alloy to produce. Brass, we're talking about a value increase of 250% from zinc and copper. It is not magma safe, so yeah. So bronze, we're talking for like weapons and stuff. Brass is more for like really nice, impressing nobles, impressing visitors, and selling for high value. So, but that is gonna go alongside gold. It's mostly just to show how wealthy you are. But that's nice, that's useful. And now we get to bronze proper, which, as I promised thoroughly, is now gonna go in the B tier. And so that now brings us to electrum, which is a really interesting one. So this is silver and gold mixed together, and I'm not really sure why you would want to do that. I mean, apparently it increases the value a little bit. Oh no, it says smelting bars together consumes 30 material and a value 10 material to produce 2 units of value 20, thus producing no net gain or loss. I don't know why you would build this except for a nice color, maybe to improve a dwarf's mood, if they specifically just love how electrum works. So yeah, that'll go right in B tier as well. A lot of these alloys are, they're cool, they're very nice metals, but they're not critical either. And now we get into something that's interesting or boring, depending on how you feel. But now we're going to get into the pewters, and there are 3 types of pewter. And we're doing this in alphabetical order, so we're going to do 2 now and then 1 right at the end. So we're going to talk, after electrum, we're going to talk fine pewter, which is 3 tin, mostly tin, and a little bit of copper. And this is mostly a decorative, you make mugs and tables and things out of it. A lot of these alloys are more decorative than their function. So it is a refined tin product with copper in it. So I'm going to put it, I'm also going to put it here. It's also going to go in the B tier. Let's see. And then after fine pewter, the second kind of 3 is lay pewter, which is 2 tin, 1 copper, and 1 lead. You're basically just watering down. You're trying to get rid of lead in the pewter. So because B is getting so crowded, and this is the worst kind of pewter that's specifically watered down with something in D tier, we are going to go ahead and put that in C tier. And then after that, we have nickel silver, which is 2 nickel, 1 copper, 1 zinc, which is actually really interesting. I always assumed that it had actual silver mixed into it until I just read that. And so this is a silver replacement in a lot of ways. It often has like a finish, a luster that'll make dwarves happy, but it is mostly decorative, so we can put that in B as well. That's going to go in B. That's nickel silver. Boop. Now this one's going to be controversial because this next one is pig iron. And so for those who might not be aware, iron can be worked with fluxstone and fuel to form pig iron, and it is basically inferior in every way to iron, except in that it is now primed, and if you treat the pig iron again, you can make steel. If you treat the pig iron with more fluxstone and more fuel, I think it's fluxstone at both stages, you make steel, which as we mentioned is absolutely going to be marked as an S tier. So because pig iron is the only gateway to steel, but it is specifically on purpose much worse than iron in every way, kind of a mostly useless metal except in the production of steel, this is going to be a tough one. So I guess I'm going to put it, I feel like lead is lonely down here in D tier, because as a metal on its own merits, pig iron is kind of useless, kind of not good for anything, and the only reason I'm not using it to fill the F tier is because it is the gateway to steel, which is going to get S tier, so fight me in the comments on that one, sorry. After pig iron is rose gold, which is just a decorative, it's 3 gold with 1 copper mixed in, it's just a decorative version of gold. And it does waste copper, which can be used for other things, but copper is so common and humble it doesn't even care. So like, we'll put this in, it's treated gold, I'll put it in A tier, why not? And as promised, here is steel. Steel is incredible, it's amazing, it is the best thing that you can build weapons out of. It is the best thing that you can build combat items out of, armor, anything like that. It is the best. Traps, anything like that. You want steel. That's what makes pig iron worth it. As well as digging into your iron supply. It basically just improves it. As long as you have the flux stone and you have enough fuel. So that's an absolute positive S tier rank for steel. Absolutely. So after that we have sterling silver. We have sterling silver, which is 3 silver with 1 copper. That might have been what I was thinking of when I said that I thought nickel silver had silver in it. So sterling silver is another one where it has sheen, it has attractiveness, dwarves will like it, it has value. So let's see. And it is made of silver and copper, so I guess that's a solid A tier as well. And then the last one is trifle pewter, which is 2 tin and 1 copper. How is that different than fine pewter? Oh, fine pewter has more tin, basically, in it, proportionally. So but not as much lead. So where did I put the other pewters? So this one can go B or C, and because it's a lesser one, I'm just going to go ahead and pop it into C. And that is everything, my friends. That is every single one. Alright, so let's just run them down to summarize. In S tier, I have placed, in my opinion, the best metals in the game. S tier are copper, iron, and steel. A tier are silver, platinum, billion, rose gold, and sterling silver. In B tier, that's actually the most popular tier in this ranking, is gold, bismuth bronze, black bronze, brass, bronze, electrum, fine pewter, nickel, silver. And in C tier we have aluminum, nickel, tin, zinc, and ley pewter. In D tier we only have lead and pig iron, and in E tier we have bismuth. There's nothing in F tier, there's no such thing as a useless metal in Dwarf Fortress, of course. They are far too industrious for that. That's all I have for you today. If you made it this far, don't forget to like and subscribe. We are still kind of trying to grow this channel. I love my 500 subscribers, but like, what would be even cooler would be more than that. So, okay, thank you for joining me. I'll catch everybody soon. Leave it in the comments if you're mad at me because you totally disagree with everything I just said. All right, goodbye. All right, welcome back everybody. And today we're going to talk about what happens when you find an expansive cavern deep underground. So that's a specific message you get in this game when, spoiler, you find an expansive cavern deep underground. So it'll pause the game, it'll give you that message, and the first thing you're going to want to do is, and just watch, this is how I'm handling it. So isolate where the breach was made, and you can see that right there, right where the mouse is on the screen, right there, that's the breach. That's the official where we pop the bubble of this cavern environment. And it is an ecosystem. It's actually going to affect the rest of your fortress because the plant life is going to now leave spores. Everything upstairs is going to change for the better. You're going to have more diverse and useful plant life usually, but there's also going to be creatures that will sneak in, and this is also a source of forgotten beasts if you have enemies enabled. So it can be very dangerous. But the first thing you're going to want to do is establish a safe, easy ingress to the cave itself, and that's what I'm doing. So a lot of times when you pop the bubble, get the announcement for this cavern, you're going to have to find a way to make like a stairway or some, ramps. I'm doing ramps in this case, down into the cavern such that they can colonize the surface. And what you're looking at here is big mushroom trees, which are pretty standard fare. That's basically how the trees in caverns work, is they're giant mushrooms. And there's all kinds of stuff down there. There's good hunting, there's good fishing in a lot of cases. This can totally empower your economy in every way. It'll give you more stuff to farm with, more random fruit to gather, because again, like the spore plants are going to now infest your in your fortress, your cavern, from the cavern. And so it's just going to give you more options. But so, okay, one thing I want to talk about, and this is a very, very useful tool that you would not guess or learn from the tutorial. And it's something that I call table testing, or you can call it furniture testing. And so if you're having trouble visualizing whether dwarves can actually safely come and go from an area, and that's a puzzle that will happen with caverns or anytime you break into something, what you can do is go press B, then press F, I believe. If this is wrong, I apologize, but B, F, and then T is for table, R is for chair, B is for bed. Actually, I'm sure that's right now because I can check with those. So for a bed, it's BFB. For a table, it's BFT. For a chair, it's BFR. And just try to place one in a place where you're like, I think my dwarves can go there. And if they can, then the bed or the table or the chair will place. It'll place without an error because the dwarves... the game just checked and they're like, can I send a dwarf there? Yes, I can. Great. If you can't, if the game checks and it can't find a path down to, say, like the ground floor of this cavern, and you'll see, if you watch carefully, I'm doing that. I'm placing random beds and tables. And it's not because I want beds and tables down there. It's because it's a sensor, it's a tester. So, so what happens is the first dwarf who digs down here, I make a mistake somehow, and he can't get back up. And that's pretty common. You make a digging mistake, some miscalculation, and the dwarves will be like, nope, that's too steep or something. I can't get back up. And what you do, and right there, I'm testing. I'm building furniture, and it's saying, nope, I can't. The error message the game will give you is that it will say that no access to a table or chair. It's basically saying, I'm checking if there's a path from a piece of furniture in one of your stockpiles, and so you have to have beds, obviously, tables or chairs, whatever you're using. But you have to, if you have one in a stockpile and the dwarves can get to it, it'll place. Oh, that's another thing. I'm putting cage traps around the entrance. That just creates kind of like a one-way flow because there are, depending on your difficulty levels, there are weird monsters and creatures and things that'll come up and cause trouble if you don't look out for it. It is, I'll reiterate, it's an ecosystem. And that is now kind of merged with your fortress, so you have to deal with it. So cage traps are a great way to do that, to keep things from invading most things. You're definitely going to want to have your military strong if you have enemies enabled, because forgotten beasts can come from here. And then, to use the furniture testing, the table testing, to make sure that your dwarves can get down to the deepest parts of the cave. And then it just becomes new, nice, it's like above ground land, where it's like fertile, and you can grow things, and you can hunt things. It's like, fertile wildlife, but it never gets rained on, and it's private. If you can lock it down, if you can, handle the savagery of the wildlife there, it's just yours to use however you like. Okay, just realized I might have been a little out of sync on that video. If earlier when I was like right there and it wasn't synced up, I apologize. But I do have 2 more minutes, so let me just talk about, table testing, furniture testing. That's exactly what I'm doing here. We're just digging down, and the reason we're digging down through a wall or through a column of rock as much as possible is because that makes it easier to close off the entryway, put cage traps, and bottleneck any wildlife that might be coming up. And right now we're doing kind of like a rescue mission. We're having this miner who dug down too far and is now trapped, as we've confirmed with table testing. We're having him dig up while we have the rest of the fortress dig down to meet him, and we do save him. Don't worry, spoiler alert. Yeah, I saved this as spelunking going well. And yeah, we get everybody up, and your celebration once you've actually gotten down there is you can have tables and chairs and beds right on the cavern floor. And yeah, your dwarves can just start living down there, enjoying. Again, it's like a private outdoor area, as long as you can handle the wildlife. And if you've watched my videos, you know I handle that with cage traps and with my squads. I'll make more videos about how to do that. Thank you for watching. Please keep liking and subscribing. The growth has been really incredible. I've really appreciated it. And yeah, I'll see everybody in the next one.
Hey everybody, good morning. This is a viewer request. I put up a poll, said what kind of videos do people want to see more about, and somebody said legends, and I thought that's a great idea. So legends are the incredibly procedural and detailed logging that the game does anytime you play. So like right here, we're looking at the Age of Myth for the Domain of Visions. And I think when I took this footage, I have 3 existing worlds. So, you know, when you set up a world, you generate that whole planet, that whole map, basically, and then you choose a specific place to embark with your dwarves, and then you can retire that fortress when you want to and start another fortress. The way gameplay works is, you know, you have to focus on one fortress and then move on, but it all gets logged in Legends, so you can go back and you can see all this stuff, everything you're seeing now. And this is actually, so this is, I think when I made this footage, my point was that I started off with the worst possible example, the least detailed and the least crazy stuff going on. And then by the end of this video, we'll be looking at my main world, which, so if you guys remember the sand plane one I was using for videos a while back, it had a population of 220. It's the one from the happiness video. That's the one we'll be looking at the end. And that's like straight up like 40 years of gameplay. So that'll be good to look at. One thing I do want to talk about is legendary items, and even cursed items. So a few of my viewers left me comments in the last video because I was talking about a certain type of strange mood that involves murder. And those are really cool. I'm going to talk about those and give credit to those commenters because both of them told me stories from Dwarf Fortress that like blew my mind. I was like, this game is just so crazy. It always is amazing me with different procedural stuff. So the way strange moods work, there's all these different triggers and things that can play into it that from the individual dwarf's personality and from what happens to them. But ultimately, it's pretty RNG. But if you have a big fortress, semi-frequently, enough that like every time the trader comes in a big fortress, I'll have like maybe 2 more legendary items. And so dwarves will get these strange moods and they'll claim the craft shop that they need to make that item. And then they'll have a list usually of like 2 or 3 things that they specifically need. Sometimes it's like a very specific type of bone. Sometimes it's just any kind of wood. The thing that people were commenting about last time was that they had dwarves who had fell moves, which is a very specific one that I described earlier, where the dwarf goes insane, like murderously insane. Fell, I had to look it up to make sure I knew what it meant. And fell in the literary or traditional sense means evil or cruel, morally wrong and evil. So a fell mood, which is one of the many types of strange moods you can get like fey moods, all kinds of different moods that involve different things and produce different things. But, well, okay, let me get into these viewer comments just because it's a better example than I can give. So these are both fell moods. To clarify, strange moods can be
any kind of thing, and they often produce useful things. The average legendary item is like incredible iron sword. Before, this is going to be another disorganized one, but before I get too far on that, let me just specify so that the point of these legendary items is that they will be logged in your legends, appropriately enough, for the rest of all time. They can be stolen, they can be traded, they will move all over the continent, and so it's really the coolest part. I mean, like, your fortresses are cool, the individual dwarves are really cool, but like, these legendary items will actually circle the world for, hundreds of years, and it'll be something one of your dwarves made, and that's really cool. So, but let's talk about specifically these cursed items, these fell moods, these fell mood examples. So Incubus Daniel writes, regarding that bit about the butcher shop mood, that's called a fell mood, and your dwarves can enter it just like any other, as long as their happiness level is low enough to at least be in the orange zone. So like what he's talking about, the faces at the top, so orange is like second from the right. So he says that this happened, and so a dwarf went crazy, killed another dwarf, butchered them, and created, quote, the dwarf in question made a shield made out of dwarf bone, covered in dwarf leather, which menaced with spikes of dwarf bone. It bore on its front an image of the creator screaming in agony. That blew my mind. I wrote back, I said, that's the most metal thing I ever heard. And it was the most metal thing I ever heard until a commenter with the handle Hans Liemerson quoted something that was even more metal. He just said, I once had a fell mood where the artifact created was a statue of a dwarf. So now I want you to think about that. So this dwarf went crazy, claimed a butcher shop, killed one of his fellow dwarves, and then used the body parts to make a statue of a dwarf. Picture it, literally just a serial killer. And the game procedurally generated this. This wasn't like an Easter egg specifically, made by the devs. The game procedurally accidentally made like this crazy dark serial killer story where he killed somebody, and then it was a legendary recreation of that dwarf made with their own body. It boggles the mind. And then the craziest thing is that Hans Liemerson adds, it was many versions ago and happened during a tantrum spile I was trying to bring under control. I placed the newly created artifact statue in the dining hall to improve the morale of the remaining dwarves. And the insane thing is that might actually work because it is a legendary quality statue, which greatly would increase the value. It might actually work. I'd have to see it for myself, but thank you both for commenting. That both of those comments really made my day, and I know that other viewers, really appreciate stories like that. So if you're listening to this one and you have something like that, feel free to throw it in there. I'll shout you out if it amazes me. All right, going back to my legendary items, and I think we got just about 3 minutes left. All right, so now we are looking at the domain of visions. I'm not sure if that's what we started with, but I see there the laborious lancers, which are the ones that I recognize. That was the map that we've seen on the sand plane with 220 dwarves. And this map was, for me, like just a crazy legendary item generator. I mean, there was some special batch of seasonings in that temple. In that fortress. But so I'm looking for names that I recognize where I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. Because a lot of times, so legendary items, a lot of times a dwarf will just offer it to the government of your fortress. But sometimes they'll claim it as a family heirloom or they'll claim it for themselves. And then it can still get stolen, it can still be traded. But and so this is how I get most of mine out into the world. The Dimpled Labor, I think, was the name of the human traders that I traded with for like 40 years on this map. And they would buy all my legendary items and kind of disseminate them out into the world that I guess is called, in this case, the Domain of Visions. And you can see it's all there. So I'm looking for ones that I specifically recognize. And in the thumbnail actually is a brand new iron sword from one of my new maps. And that was cool. That was nice. It's not always a weapon. A lot of times it can be literally anything. It can be a cup. It can be a skirt. I've seen puzzle boxes. Ooh, I had a few things that really reminded me of movies. Actually, this is from my own experience where I'll mention it. There was like one ring. There was like at one point a really golden ring that was really legendary. I was like, ooh, that's cool. I hope that ends up in a volcano or something. And then what else? There was something else that really reminded me of like The Sixth Sense. I'll have to go through my notes and find that again. It's not coming to me now, but I took a screenshot because I was like, this is the plot of The Sixth Sense. I think that's what it was. But I guess I mentioned that because legendary puzzle box reminds me of Hellraiser. I swear they're not all evil. I guess I have an eye for the dark, creepy ones. But like one of the ones in this one is like a llama skirt that the creator actually kind of coveted for a long time and really didn't want to share with anybody. And then I think like I I forced them to sell it because they might have been tantruming out and we needed more to trade. So anyway, it's out in the world. It's really beautiful. I like how the legendary stuff never gets destroyed. Or if it does, leave it in the comments, because I'm not aware of any ring in the volcano situations where a item will actually go away and no longer be logged here in Legends. But yeah, check out Legends. Okay, so if I didn't already clarify, and I'm running out of time, but to get into Legends, you have to be in between fortresses. So you have to retire, and you can always unretire, just do it carefully and make sure you have backup saves. You can always retire at any time your main fortress to see your world's legends, and just check that out because it has everything. It has all the organizations. It has, you see all these tabs up here, legends, civilizations, and entities. It'll keep track of every forgotten beast. It's pretty incredible stuff. So please check that out for yourself. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm running out of time on this video. Thanks for watching. I always appreciate it. Catch you soon. Bye. Hello, my friends, and thank you for joining me. This is an important video that I've been meaning to do for a long time. So these are all interesting facts that can be useful, certainly useful in Dwarf Fortress. This is going to improve your Dwarf Fortress game, of course, because the game is all about building mines through geological features. If you're a nerd like me and you also just think geology is really neat, this is going to be an especially good video. So in Dwarf Fortress, at least, there are 4 types of stone layers in Dwarf Fortress, very much based on real-life geology. So yeah, let's give a quick overview. At the top layer, we have soil. If you search for an embark, you can specify exactly how much soil you want. And it can go from 0 soil to like 4 layers deep. And soil is something you really want to think about because if there's also an aquifer, which is a feature that we're about to talk about as well. More layers of soil mean that you can't smooth the stone walls. So you can't tamp down an aquifer as easily in a soil biome. So, I mean, just imagine that if you're digging through loose soil and the water table is right underneath basically where you're standing, it's just like at the beach. It's going to fill with water immediately. And that's different than, of course, digging a stone tunnel that you can then smooth and fortify. You can fortify soil layers as well. But that's just something you want to think about. Soil also plays into how much farming you're going to do. Like, for example, if it's all sand, I learned the hard way, then you'll have no surface farming. You can farm on, normal types of soil. A few other things like that. Moving on from soil, because honestly, while we're talking about stone layers, that's the least stony of them all. Let's move right on to aquifers, which are also found at this layer. So like I said, it's just kind of a groundwater. So at the very top are volcanoes, which is, of course, where magma from the center of the terrain comes all the way up through a vertical crack in the earth. So that's the topmost feature. Below that is soil, aquifers. Like I said, that's just your water table. On some maps, that's another thing that you can search for in an embark, where you can specifically be like, I would like an aquifer or I would not like an aquifer. For example, I think the footage you're looking at now is from a new aquifer challenge that I'm doing, where it's just a huge water table. It's really hard to dig through, but I enjoy it. Hashtag saltwater aquifer. So now that we've established the basic layout from top to bottom of the kind of layers that you're going to be working through, I'm going to jump around to the most interesting features, the things that you're going to want to dig towards, the things that you're going to, in a Dwarf Fortress run, the things that you're going to want to especially investigate depending on what you're trying to do. So Metamorphic contains a small variety of vein ores as well as marble. Now, I don't think I've defined that yet in this video. Vein ores just means where you'll find a vein of metal. It's only copper and silver, which if you've seen my metal ranking chart, you'll know that that's not bad. It's not bad at all, but limited vein ore. Now, the main reason you're going to want to come to the metamorphic layer is because it contains marble, which is the only non-sedimentary flux. So, if you're not already familiar with fluxstone, it basically all it does is let you get to steel. It lets you process iron into steel via pig iron and then to steel. So it is very important for a military build or for anything where you would want steel, mostly for military. That's the main where you really, you're going to be mad at yourself if you don't have fluxstone. So maybe I should use that to segue. Let's circle back. So metamorphic, that's the main thing. It's not terribly critical. It has a little bit of ore. It does have marble, which often has a lot of marble in my experience. But if you're looking for other options for fluxstone, by the way, is also something that you can search for in the embark menu to find an embark. It really is important. If you made it this far in the video and you've been like, I don't know what he's talking about with this embark menu and how to search for the exact embark I want, please do some research, because that is a really critical tool to having the fun that you want to have in Dwarf Fortress, because you can specify basically everything. But so usually after the soil, you're going to hit a sedimentary layer. This has lignite and bituminous coal, which are both really useful for fuel if you don't have a volcano. So if you don't have a volcano for fuel, you're going to have to do charcoal from wood
or you're going to have to process lignite and bituminous coal within the sedimentary layer. And it doesn't always have that. So, fuel is another consideration that when you're setting your embark that you want to think about. So yeah, fluxstone, unless you have marble later in the metamorphic layer, you better have had fluxstone or have, searched correctly on your embark and made sure that there was fluxstone. And it also mentions that the gems, if you do find some gems in this layer, they're a little less valuable. We're going to talk about that later. There's a few other weird little things that I learned from this article, actually, as I was reading. But there's things like jade only appears in alluvial layers. And hopefully I'll remember to put that on the screen so people know what I'm talking about. But in any case, 20% of the time, you get igneous extrusive instead. And so I was reading this wiki, and this is actually something I didn't realize until I was reading it. It says, besides being made of different rocks, they're generally very similar to sedimentary layers, with the exception being that they often indicate the presence of magma above the magma sea itself. This is always the topmost layer near volcanoes. So that's kind of the trade-off. If you embark on a volcano, you might be in a situation where you have igneous extrusive instead of sedimentary. And that kind of makes sense because, the idea of a volcano is that from the magma sea down at the bottom in the center of the planet is pushing up. And so the igneous intrusive, which is normally the layer right over the magma sea, is pushed up to the surface. So it makes sense. But so yeah, you will not find fluxstone because almost all the fluxstone, except for marble, occurs in that sedimentary layer you're not getting now if you embark near a volcano. But hopefully you can find marble in the metamorphic. Hopefully the map will make it up to you. But once again, got to recommend you search for this beforehand. If you really want to make sure that you have anything, a certain sand layer, savagery, anything, you really got to learn how to use that embark tool. Anyway, moving on. People who already know how to use that tool are like, move on. Okay, and so caverns start around, they can, at least in my experience, they can occur at any layer. The image that is now on my thumbnail, and I'm going to try to post up again here, is shows it as occurring kind of slightly after the metamorphic layer. Leave in the comments if that's really the rule, because I feel like I found caverns right on the surface sometimes. Maybe it's just maybe it is a metamorphic layer. I feel like caverns are kind of in most layers. It's true that I've never, of course, found one in soil, and I've never found one in sedimentary. I'm not sure. Anyway, leave it in the comments. I'll have to do more research on my own. But then after the caverns, which I've done other videos about those, of course, that's a whole series of videos. And your metamorphic and your igneous intrusive are going to be the really, really rare gemstones, which Dwarven economy is all about. I'll be honest, I've played Dwarf Fortress for about a decade now, and I still don't have a clear understanding of which gems are in the metamorphic section and which gems are in the igneous intrusive. Honestly, I'm happy every time I find a gem. I just dig them. Whatever I find, I keeps. So, but with that being said, I did learn a lot from this wiki page, which is mentioning, here are the varieties that the game classifies different gems as, and these are useful for a lot of things, for how you would use them, how valuable they are. So, of course, the lowest rarity is synthetic, which is the different types of glass. I made a different video about how to make green glass, clear glass, and crystal glass. You can check that out on my channel, but those are synthetic gems. They barely count, basically. They can be used as a replacement for gems, but it's like, it's like a piece of plastic instead of a gem. Something interesting about jade that I did want to mention is that it apparently is only found in alluvial zones, and I hope I put this up on the screen again. Alluvial, it's a rare word that I didn't know, but it means it's a special biome. Several minerals, ores, and gems are specified to occur at least in part within alluvial layers. Jade is a giveaway. That's what the Wikia says. Alluvial stone is loose and unconsolidated stone that has been eroded away, smoothed down by water flow, and then redeposited in a non-marine setting. Cases where like a lake existed and then it dried up, or a river existed and then it dried up. So anyway, that's jade. If you find jade, which I have in the past, there's a lot of little hints like that where a gem will actually give you a lot of information about what you're digging through if you have this, this knowledge of what it means. So sorting by value, ornamental. These examples are like bloodstone, blue jade, citrine, lapis lazuli, which we know from Minecraft, of course, schorls, smoky quartz. These are all ornamental. That's the lowest level. Actually mixed in with synthetic, which can jockey for low value position with ornamental. So, just like at home, stuff is made out of glass or made out of something relatively cheap, but pretty to look at. After that is semi-precious, with examples of semi-precious being like opal, zircon, spinels, topaz, black opal, blue garnet, stuff like that. Then precious are emeralds, faint yellow diamonds, rubies, sapphires, with rare being special colors of diamonds, black diamond, blue diamond, clear diamond,
And also in there are star rubies and star sapphires, which are specifically especially nice rubies and sapphires that you find that can be cabicund for additional value, I think. I'm not sure if it actually does add additional value. Leave it in the comments if that's wrong. I'm just doing my best reading the Wikia here, again, in the deep, deep depths of the Dwarf Fortress lore mine. Okay, but I know what most people are here for. You want a cheat sheet of the 4 main stone layers. Where do you go for what? And I'm going to try and spell that out right now. So, when I say main stone layers, I mean we're not counting soil, we're just counting sedimentary or the igneous extrusive layer, depending on your map, and then below that metamorphic, and then below that the igneous intrusive layer. Simple as. So these are the only 4 you have to worry about, and it sounds like based on the Wikia, basically you only have to worry about 3 at a time. So let's just start from the top. So sedimentary, that's most maps, the top layer under your soil. What are we looking for? Sandstone, mudstone, shale. These are all kind of, regular rock salt, lime. Limestone is specifically used in parchment. So look out for limestone because it can do some specific things. I think dolomite is like magma safe. This is another thing that we might look for, might save. Otherwise, the things that you're dredging up from here can basically just be used for buildings or other unremarkable things. So let's talk stone found in the sedimentary layers. Hematite, really important source of iron. Limonite is also an ore of iron. Does it produce anything else? Oh, it's pure. Okay, great. I learned that today. Limonite is pure iron as well. So sedimentary layer, you're looking for iron, which is one of the best metals that you can have for general purposes. We mentioned earlier bituminous coal and lignite are both important sources of fuel. They can be processed. Gypsum has some economic purpose that I don't remember, but it is not usually worth saving. I'll usually toss most of that. Saltpeter also, if you're interested. Magnetite, which is also a source of iron. So basically, sedimentary layer, you're going to find your iron one way or another. Gems that we're looking out for are onyx, schorl, agate, sards, more agate, lots of jasper, tiger's eyes, tourmalines. That's the other big one. Tourmalines in the sedimentary level. Fairly common, but can provide some early money as you're beginning to start your fortress. Okay, so let's say that you've started on a volcano or something, or for whatever reason you have an igneous extrusive layer, which, as we said, that's when basically the magma sea bubbles up to the surface, providing some igneous rock closer to the surface than you would normally expect. Okay, so you'll know you're in a sedimentary layer if your dwarves are digging through sandstone, siltstone, mudstone, shale, claystone, rock salt, limestone, conglomerate, dolomite, chert, or chalk. If any of these sound familiar, you're probably in your sedimentary layer. So now let's talk igneous extrusive. Igneous extrusive, you'll know you're in that layer if you see rhyolite, basalt, andesite, dacite, or obsidian. Those more experienced players would also recognize these. These tend to occur near the magma sea as well. I've also seen them on like beachside oceans. I don't know. I think on my maps I've noticed that a lot of times volcanoes will come out of the ocean. And so it's a combination of there being nothing else, water washes away the soil and the sedimentary level, but the igneous extrusive layer. So the footage you're looking at now, I believe, is from a volcano beachside embark. And you're going to see lots of basalt and andesite that we're digging through, and obsidian as well. You'll know you're there when you hear those words, basalt or andesite or dacite or obsidian or rhyolite. Here we're also looking for hematite, now also copper as native copper, galena, which is a silver lead mix, more magnetite, more iron, also native aluminum, which, so from this footage that I'm going to be showing, we do have some native aluminum, which is nice. That's a little thing about forming around a volcano. Also native gold. Gems, we're looking for turquoises and zircons, many zircons. It's like Zircon City in intrusive and extrusive igneous layers. So moving on to the metamorphic layer, as we've discussed, the main thing about it is you're going to look out for marble as a flux stone if you don't have a sedimentary layer, if you're near a volcano or something. Up beyond that, there are a few unique types of gems, not so good for metal ore, and the Wikia notes lacking any ores of iron. So if you don't have iron already, by the time you get into the metamorphic ore, then you need to ask yourself some questions. How do you know you're in the metamorphic layer? You're going to be looking for the main rock that you're cutting through is going to be quartzite, slate, phyllite, schist, gneiss, or marble. Marble being the really economically valuable one. Ores? Okay, interesting. I'm gonna make a complaint to the Wikia because it says at the top, metamorphic layer, however, they are generally poor in metal ores, lacking any ores of iron. But then when I scroll down to stone found in metamorphic layers, it notes small clusters of hematite. I think I get it. I think the idea being that occasionally hematite will be on the layer of a metamorphic layer. That's an iron ore, of course, but you can't count on it. You won't find it normally in metamorphic layers. No beef, Wikia. I love you, Dwarf Fortress, Wikia. You'll also find galena, sphalerite. These are ores, magnetite. This also mentions magnetite small clusters, so you know, that thing earlier about lacking any iron ores, maybe worth editing. And then for gems, so metamorphic, when you're in the metamorphic, you're down towards the bottom of the map. So you're getting ready for some endgame fun, some circus, and you're really just kind of mostly have the metals you need. You're collecting gems to sell, specialize, and support your economy. But so gems you'd find down here are more valuable. You know, they're harder to get to. That's the dwarf specialty. They go down deep. They get the rare ones. So while you're down there, you're looking for shorls, tourmalines, moonstones, more zircons. Like we mentioned, zircons also occur higher. Tourmalines, garnets, even more zircons. I'm just looking down the list. More tourmalines, spinels as well at this layer. Garnets, that's about it. But lots of good stuff to cut and to sell to foolish, elven, and human traders who have no idea how easy it is to pluck this stuff out of the earth. And then the only thing left is the igneous intrusive layer, which is basically the stone that sits right on top of the magma sea. So at this point, things are getting hot. We're watching out for magma. The magma sea could be all around us. There's probably scary stuff even beyond the magma sea, if you can even imagine something as scary as that. But so this is where the Earth, the planet, is starting to resist us a little bit. But it is valuable down there. So how are you going to know you're in an igneous intrusive layer? Well, you should be pretty deep down, of course, but then you're going to be cutting through granite or diorite or gabbro. These are the main stones down deep. Down here, you're going to find more hematite, magnetite, some gold. Lapis lazuli forms very deep down, as we know from Minecraft. What is the deal? It's like a real thing. And all video games have agreed that occurs very, very deep under the earth. I guess it's true. But don't quote me on that. I have no idea. The key thing here is that kimberlite. Kimberlite, you're going to want to remember that name. It's in the game. It's kind of a blue-gray stone. It's an igneous stone, and it's found in veins in layer of gabbro, which, as we mentioned in the previous one, so down deep in the igneous intrusion layer, down deep towards the magma sea, you're going to see something called kimberlite inside of big chunks of gabbro. And when you see that, you want to get really excited because kimberlite is the only source of the rarest gems in the game, including yellow diamonds, black diamonds, red, blue, green, and clear diamonds. These occur only, I'm quoting the Wikia now, they occur only as individual gems within existing clusters of faint yellow diamonds, which are themselves found only in kimberlite, which is itself found only in gabbro. So that's why you want to go down there. Is some serious diamond action starts to happen really close to the magma sea. You know, experiment down there, you know, just dig through stuff while you're down there. It will only result in fun while you're down there. So enjoy. I think that's everything that I wanted to talk about Dwarven geology in Dwarf Fortress. So thank you again for joining me. And if you made it this far, thank you so much for listening. Just like to remind everybody that liking this video and subscribing if you're not already really helps the channel. And yeah, I hope people enjoy.